Chapter 219, How is that a rule? Chapter 219, How is that a rule? Who said that? Step forward. Zhuofan roamed the group with a critical, a thin elder moved, sneering at Zhuofan. Humph, you snot-nosed brat. Ha! Zhuofan instantly cuffed the man, making him stumble. That's steward Zhuo for you. Why you? The elder was dumbstruck, too angry to even speak clearly. Forget about him being a profound heaven expert. Just based on his age alone, receiving a slap from a brat was a downright disgrace. The blood rushed to his head and charged Zhuofan. You damn punk, you think you're great? I will teach you a lesson for daring to raise your hand against an imperial guard. But then he groaned and went bug-eyed. His breathing grew fainter, and his head, forever lowered his chest, was now sporting an extra fist hole through his chest. Zhuofan glanced at his dripping bloody hand, painting a marvelous work of art. SSS. Gasping, the other elders watched Zhuofan in shock. How was this fifth layer of bone-tempering kid able to kill one of them so easily? Luo Yunchang yelped and covered her eyes. The fatty's face twitched and said, Brother, I knew you were awesome, but these were bestowed to you. You can't just kill them. Fang Xiaobai's eyes trembled. Watching Zhuofan with an even more curious gaze, this divine dragon had heard rumors aplenty regarding Zhuofan, but seeing was believing with Zhuofan's mere cultivation. The feats he pulled against others higher than him left people shocked. Zhuofan frowned and ignored the others' unusual gazes as suspicion grew in his mind. This geezer is clearly in the profound heaven stage, yet his speed and power are lackluster. He was planning on making an example out of this one for the rest of them, by leaving him a heavy wound. But it ended with him getting killed instead. It's as if he's... Squinting, Zhuofan's eyes shined faintly azure, releasing a short-range soul scan to scour these acting elders while hiding from Jade Flute Divine, Sword's notice sure enough. These guys were all posing as profound heaven experts, while their power was far below the threshold. Just like Huangpu Qingyun's four porters in Drifting Flower City, if you'd must define these guys' power. That'd make them fake profound heaven experts, but this fake stage was only privy to a radiant stage expert, while all others couldn't tell the difference. In a nutshell, they're goddamn props. Sighing, Zhuofan barked. Fatty, you tricked me. These are no profound heaven experts. You brought me fakes. Just take them away already. Fatty cried, cut the act. I'm not blind enough to not see a real profound heaven expert from a fake. Zhuofan glared. Are you looking to see me loose out when I'll be facing other houses with these fake profound heaven experts that are no more than some bone-tempering pups? The fatty scratched his nose in embarrassment. It's just so you can look the part. When others see these 20 men, they will be intimidated. Spare me the nonsense, and give it to me straight. Where did you get these weirdos? The fatty scratched his face in silence. Fang Xiaobai chuckled. Let me explain it. Their talents were meager, imperial guards with slim chances to even enter the profound heaven stage. They couldn't even take 2 hits from a real profound heaven expert, even if they did enter it. So the imperial family had a project to raise many of such people into profound heaven experts through pills. But it failed. They have the air of a profound heaven expert, but not the power to back it up. But as Songer said, even these props have use. 2 decades ago, Chuanrong was about to invade Tianyu. His Majesty was scared of war, losing his subjects and wealth, and pushed tens of thousands of fake profound heaven experts to the front lines, scaring away the Chuanrong. Ha ha ha, you have to admire His Majesty's wisdom. Face twitching, Zhuofan watched speechless. No wonder he's the weakest in the Empire's 1,000-long history. He doesn't do anything, he just poses. Though he had to admit, mixing lies with truth was an ingenious tactic. But it has no damn use in a war between houses. Zhuofan threw the fake experts a look, then sighed. Fatty, when you give something, make sure it has some use, all right? Even 10 real profound heaven experts would do. What 10? We got none. Crying out, the fatty persuaded like a cheapskate. Bro, real profound heaven experts are the cream de la cream in any clan. How can they be raised so easily? Veiled Dragon Pavilion has 9, and of Hell Valley's 12, You killed 6. Our imperial family is also short on them. Imperial father can't dispense any. Zhuofan shrugged. Then if he wants to bestow something, let him give something real. These fakers are not only cocky, they even start posing in my face. Take them back. That's unlikely. How can we go against an imperial edict? If you really do this, I cannot bear the responsibility. Imperial father won't budge either. Also, Fatty turned to those fake elders and shouted, also, if you go back, your heads will fall. They instantly fell to their knees, pleading, but Zhuofan shook his head still, finding it hard to accept. They have no skills. With you here, of course they'll beg, but once you leave, they will return to their haughty attitude. I see, brother. Don't worry, leave it to me. The fatty cursed at them. You bunch of good-for-nothing bastards. You have been bestowed to the Luo clan as elders and must follow its rules to a fault, especially steward's orders. Also, who are you to say no? You're just a bunch of fakers. Let me tell you, this brother of mine, Steward Zhuofan, has fought Hell Valley, kicked around Drifting Flowers edifice, punching and smashing any and all from the 7 houses. The number of profound heaven elders from the 7 houses under his belt exceeds 10. You must be wondering, how is he still alive? Power. If you had his power, of course you'd defy him. If you don't, then you better goddamn listen or just drop dead. The fatty's pep talk did the trick, and the fakes watched Zhuofan in shock. Not once did they think this brat was such a monster. To openly defy the 7 houses, no wonder he acted so high and mighty with them, even daring to kill one bestowed by the emperor. The Luo clan's steward being powerful seemed valid. They'd always lived in the palace and knew nothing of Zhuofan's exploits. So they instantly prostrated half into Fatty's howling speech, of course. They were nothing compared with such a man of power. Well, right, they had to still act tough. Luo Yinchang was overwhelmed with emotion, but mostly watched Zhuofan enjoy. What do you think, brother? They'll listen now. Cough, cough. Ignoring the smiling fatty, Zhuofan faked a cough and stuck out his chest as he spoke to the fakes. As you've been bestowed by His Majesty, and seeing how important it is to Third Prince, I will accept, albeit reluctantly, such fake profound heaven experts. The fatty was over the moon, as were the rest. Their mission was now complete, and were exempt from the emperor's punishment. However, Zhuofan's tone turned heavy. You are to abide by Luo clan's rules if you are to stay. First, the most important of all, only me, Steward Zhuofan, is allowed to show off. Whoever dares to show off before me will find their life cut short. They all turned dumbfounded. How is that a rule? The fatty's face darkened and twitched. Young Miss Luo, does the Luo clan really have such a shameless rule? Luo Yinchang bobbed her head and held her mouth, yet her stomach hurt from how hard it was to stop from laughing. The fatty was speechless. Second, when you're outside the clan, I am the first and foremost to show off, and when it's your turn to do it, it must by all means be a cut below mine. Failure to comply means death. They all held their foreheads. So this is the Luo clan? Is this how its steward acts? It's just so hard to fathom. Are these what you call rules? Luo Yinchang was laughing so hard she laid on the table. The fatty patted his fat cheeks, helpless, and Feng Qiubai watched it all engrossed. Third, Zhuofan continued. You are to obey my every order without question. When I say you kill, you comply. Otherwise, death. They shivered when he reached this point and nodded. They may have submitted, but Zhuofan could see the doubt in their eyes. To someone like Zhuofan, it was this doubt that spoke of the problems ahead. Zhuofan cracked jokes with his first 2 rules just to ease them into a false security, while the third rule was to test them, and just as he saw, the third rule was accepted with some hesitation. If they were indeed bestowed by the emperor, the latter would have ordered them to obey the Luo clan to the letter. So the third rule ought to have been received instantly, but they hesitated. This proved they had a different aim being here, and this sudden rule caught them off guard. Zhuofan showed a crafty smile. This makes you Luo clan's elders. Grand Elder will take you now. Elder Lei. Lei Yuntian flashed before Zhuofan and cupped his hands. Steward Zhuo orders. These are elders bestowed by His Majesty. They will be under your care. You have to take good care of them. Zhuofan grinned. evilly Lei Yuntian was happy so many experts joined. But Zhuofan's good care painted a very clear image as to Zhuofan's intention regarding these fakes. To not let them wander off and to keep his eyes on them nodding. Lei Yuntian took the elders with a solemn look. The elders were sadly mistaken that they were now in the clear, having entered the Luo clan, when in fact they would be under tight surveillance. What was more, neither the fatty nor anyone else there knew this would happen. The fatty then saw Zhuofan return to being seated at the pavilion along with him, and the rest, brother, besides the third rule. The first two will have me killed. Fatty patted Zhuofan's shoulder laughingly. Zhuofan spoke solemnly. Without these two, how can there be a third rule? Fatty joined in, thinking the first two rules were to establish Zhuofan's prestige for the third one. But then he looked at Zhuofan seriously. Then let us get to the matter at hand. Luo clan steward, Zhuofan, received this edict. Chapter 220, Esoteric Debate. Chapter 220, Esoteric Debate. Long live the emperor! Luo Yunchang bowed, while Zhuofan remained still. Speak. Fatty's fat face twitched helpless. Brother, this is the imperial edict. Looking on with such contempt would have you labeled a traitor and your head chopped. Whatever. Only we are here anyway. With Mr. Fong not looking to be a man indulging in gossip, if you won't tell it, no one will. Moreover, it won't matter even if you did. For the emperor to issue me an imperial edict, that only means he needs me. How could he kill me over such trifles? Zhuofan shrugged. The fatty was lost for words. Zhuofan is indeed a man who can see through anyone. The emperor wouldn't do anything even if this guy lay in bed when receiving the edict, but where would the imperial family's dignity be then? The fatty looked bitterly at Fong Qiubai. Master, how is this guy any good? Ha! Extraordinary people need to be handled extraordinarily. So you don't need to mind this empty courtesy. Fong Qiubai caressed his beard, sighing. The fatty could only nod. Luo Yunchang rushed to her feet and pouted at Zhuofan's side. He noticed with amusement this new side of the always serious young miss. Young miss, with your temper, you can't be so frivolous around such an important event as receiving the imperial edict. Humph, what frivolous? What will be the point in kneeling if you don't? And you'll be dealing with anything that arises anyway. Luo Yunchang snorted and stuck out her chin. Zhuofan laughed and praised. That's our young miss, all right. This was the Luo clan Zhuofan wanted, the best clan in the world. They had to aim for the heavens themselves as well. How could that come to fruition if they'd buckle just from some yellow paper from some emperor? The fatty was almost crying. Zhuofan is ruining the Luo clan. When he came here 3 years ago, the Luo clan was filled with respect and saw the imperial family with reverence. But now, they were tough and stubborn, with even the ever-cautious young miss acting like this. They didn't yet make the part to face the 7 houses, but they already started to show the same defect as them. Just how the clan head was, so too did the clan act. And just how their steward behaves now. That's what the clans will turn into. The fatty shook his head, dispensing with the courtesy as well. Never mind then. It's a verbal order anyway. I'll be straight with you. The emperor intends to have you participate in the esoteric debate and take the regent estate down a peg. The esoteric debate. Zhuofan raised an eyebrow. He looked at Luo Yunchang, finding her just as clueless as he was. The fatty raised his bloated head and showed a cocky grin. Hey, you were so cocky before, so feisty, when you are in fact nothing but bores. It's now my turn to show off. The fatty laughed and preened. Esoteric debate is held once a century, a gathering of the most elite clans. With the Luo clan not being even a third-rate clan, a mere cannon fodder for all these years, it is perfectly normal for you to be ignorant. Is that so? Then why is the emperor inviting our small clan? Please report to His Majesty, Third Prince, that after hearing your words, Zhuofan feels sorely lacking and ashamed to participate in this grand summit. Tell him to find someone more worthy of his attention. Zhuofan flicked the non-existent dust of his clothes. The fatty caught Zhuofan's arm in panic. Don't, brother. Imperial father will kill me if I go back like this. It is my fault for trying to show off. Right? I will definitely frame Luo clan's first rule on my wall to remind myself every day you will be the only one to show off. Please find in your heart to forgive this foolish brother of yours. The fatty was begging Zhuo Fan in tears, his swag gone like the wind. Luo Yinchang giggled, and Fong Qiubai shook his head. Fine, do continue. Zhuo Fan was only playing around with the third prince. He knew when to quit the fatty's side, and no longer dared mess around. Brother, to tell the truth, the esoteric debate is really not some place where elite clans gathered, but where houses bet on their honor to avail themselves. It is a slaughterhouse. A clan can rise to the top in one step, or fall to their ruins in another. Many first-rate clans would find themselves worse than even third-rate clans. Brother, you must be vigilant if you still want to go. Oh, why do you say that? Zhuo Fan frowned in doubt with a sigh. The fatty's green and beady eyes shined with a deep gaze. This goes back to the founding of the empire, of the time when the seven houses were in constant conflict with each other. There was no open war between the seven houses, but none was willing to back down to anyone. To settle the disputes among them, Tianyu's founding emperor signed an agreement with them. Anyone below 30 years of age was going to compete in order to settle whose house will become the head of the seven houses. These youths would also one day represent their houses in the future. Their power predicted their house's power under their rule. The seven houses thus no longer took arms and their ranks divided. This was the inception of the esoteric debate. Gradually, more and more outstanding clans who wished for greatness joined. They were chosen by the seven houses and imperial family to participate. This is how the current esoteric debate came to be, yet no matter how many clans joined, it was still the seven houses that came on top. The others would simply be fighting for the chance to be their vassals. It slowly turned into a bizarre situation. For the sake of their reputation, the seven houses weren't into this debate to the death, while the vassal clans fought to the bitter end for their masters. The survivors would thus be looked kindly upon by the houses and also receive their support, while the rest would become mountain of bones for the other to rise on. The fatty's tone contained mockery, pity, but most of all anger. The seven houses' existence robbed the rest of the clans their chance at greatness, reducing them to mere expendable pawns. The esoteric debate held each century left Tianyu stagnant, its power never reaching new heights, while the seven houses' power kept on growing to him. The seven houses were Tianyu's cancer. Zhuo Fan sensed his hatred and nodded. Then what does the emperor expect of me? Defeat Regent Estate? That's hardly feasible for a fresh clan like yours. You're just too weak. The fatty smiled wryly and dismissed his words. Regent Estate dares call itself the head of the seven houses and harbors the ambition to swallow the other houses because it never once lost in the esoteric debates. Imperial Father wishes for you to harass Regent Estate and throw them off their game. Regardless of which other house takes the head title, it would give Regent Estate a severe blow to their prestige. Zhuo Fan's brow trembled and shot the fatty a look. Harass? You want me to lower myself in doing such a trifling matter? Ha ha ha. Brother, I know you're great, but you do not understand them. Even interfering would be a tough problem for many other people. Chuckling, Fatty gave him a yellow ribbon of silk. This was the roster for the last esoteric debate. See for yourself. Zhuo Fan looked at the names of the seven houses' disciples in shock, especially since there were so many familiar names. The fatty pointed out each one. The seventh name, from Drifting Flowers Edifice, must be quite familiar to you. Grandmother Chu Bijuan is renowned among the seven houses, but despite her bravery, she was too weak. Drifting Flowers Edifice was dead last among the houses in the last esoteric debate, as if to point out it would in fact become the weakest in this last century among the houses. Zhuo Fan nodded. Watching the names, many issues started making sense. It showed the precise power of every house lord, extrapolated into the probable power each clan had in the near future. The sixth name, Mary Woods. Zhuo Fan's eyes skipped at the moment he saw it. Humph. Nothing notable about a claptrap, spouting opportunist pre-Copernican obscurantist with no backbone to speak of. Fifth name, Sword Marquis abode, led by Jian Suifeng. Zhuofan's eyes twitched and frowned. Since Sword Marquis abode came in fifth, then its power was also in fifth among the houses. The next name had him widen his eyes. Fourth, Veiled Dragon Pavilion with Long Jiao and the other elders. Third, Hell Valley, with Yu-Giki participating as well. Second, Pill King Hall's group, led by Vicious Pill King. And first, of course, was Regent Estate. Zhuofan's heart sank. All his allies were dead last, while the top ranks were held by Regent Estate's loyal dogs. They were not only weaker than the head, but weaker than everyone else. Picking up on his thoughts, the fatty laughed and patted his shoulder. "Haha, there's no need to fret, brother. Thanks to your evil ways, these houses' power is no longer what it used to." "What do you mean?" Zhuofan's eyes shined. He knew he wrecked Hell Valley, but what of Pill King Hall? Fatty chuckled. "The ranking of the last esoteric debate is like this because of some amazing figures that appeared at the time. Hell Valley's third spot was all thanks to Fifth Elder. Diamondback Ape's power pushed back Veiled Dragon Pavilion's third elder in accordance with Yu-Giki's master plan. Without these two, Hell Valley would be far weaker than Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Then there's Pill King Hall in second place. They had Vicious Pill King to thank for that. His poison was so deadly, no one dared approach him. Without him, they wouldn't have gotten ahead of even Mary Woods. The fatty trailed off, but Zhuofan got the picture. Hell Valley and Pill King Hall's powers were mostly sapped, since their pillars were cruelly and mercilessly killed or ruined by Zhuofan himself, so of course the two no longer were what they used. A fatty grinned. There were many illustrious names in the last esoteric debate. Yu-Giki, this mastermind, was publicly acclaimed as the first genius among the 20 profound heaven experts of the 7 houses joining the debate. Then there was Vicious Pill King, the alchemist of the millennium. Uncle Joe also showed great prowess as well. Known for his purple lightning gold eye, Zhuofan nodded, secretly rejoicing. It was great that his first profound heaven expert kill was Yu-Giki, avoiding many future headaches with Yu-Giki alive, plotting from the shadows. His head would have hurt like hell by now. But wasting Yu-Giki was the same as cutting Hell Valley's power in half. Thinking clearly now, his trip to Blue Expanse City was downright ingenious. As for Vicious Pill King, I sure scored big. Chapter 221, The 6 Dragons and Phoenix. Chapter 221, The 6 Dragons and Phoenix. Now that you have seen where the 7 houses stand, you need to pay a closer look to your strongest opponents in the next esoteric debate. The fatty handed another yellow silk ribbon on a heavy tone. These are the widely acclaimed geniuses of today from the 7 houses. The 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. 6 dragons and phoenix? Zhuofan perked an eyebrow. That thin silk caught his interest. He recalled having heard of this title in the Drifting Flowers edifice when he shelved that info for later, only to now realize these were the candidates for top power holders in their houses for the next century. Fatty continued. The 6 dragons and 1 phoenix goes back 1,000 years. Along the course of history, these 7 had always been the strongest talents at each debate. No matter how great the disciples of other sects and clans were, they still couldn't compare. In fact, they fell dreadfully short. In other words, the future of the 7 houses is in their hands, their power reaching higher than their predecessor and slipping ever so slightly out of the imperial family's control with every generation. This is why the Regent Estate is in a haste to unify the 7 houses now. Any more delays would make this ambition too costly to achieve, if not impossible. Zhuofan nodded. The 7 houses' growth wasn't just a plague on the imperial family, but on Regent Estate as well. If this went on, Tanya would find itself one day split in 7, with the imperial family still there only to keep up appearances. But among the houses, the statuses would change, one no longer being the head of the 7 houses. With the empire divided, unification would hardly be achievable again. Zhuofan watched the silk ribbon in earnest. The phoenix here is represented by Drifting Flowers Edifice's Edifice Lord, Ascending Ice Phoenix, Chu Qingchen. The fatty's finger rested on Drifting Flowers Edifice, Some say Chu Qingchang has the beauty to destroy nations and incredible talent as well. She was entrusted with the power of edifice lord since young. With her strong character, her aloof disposition gives the impression the men would only dirty her. Nevertheless, her power is very much real, surpassing many of the 7 houses' elders. You saw her. Zhuo Fan interrupted him with a smile. The fatty sighed. You can say that I have and haven't. When she was 16, I once went to Drifting Flowers edifice. That fine figure, the grace, the pose are all otherworldly. Many years have passed since, but I still recall that view, as if from a dream. Ah, such a pity her face was always covered. Despite staying for 1 short month, she only shot me a glance. She is truly deserving of being called an icy beauty. Is that so? But I've seen her. Zhuo Fan nodded. Fatty nodded out of reflex, then froze and cried. What, you did? You saw her, even her face? What else would I be seeing? Zhuo Fan grinned. The fatty threw him a look of envy as he rushed to ask, how does she look? Do the rumors do her justice? Ha ha ha, as if. Regardless if she's a fairy, an immortal, or even goddess, no amount of words are enough to encompass her visage. Your imaginations could never fathom the extent of her beauty. Zhuo Fan was once again putting on airs, as if it was his second nature. The fatty swallowed dryly and glared at Zhuo Fan. Why is it that this punk always gets the good stuff? How many men ever saw Chu Qingqing's face? I didn't get the chance to see it, yet this darn kid could? Luo Yunchang was sulking with puffed-out cheeks. Zhuo Fan, is she that pretty? Absolutely. I have the 3 days spent with her as testament of how accurate my description is. Zhuo Fan nodded, but it only helped fuel Luo Yunchang's anger while the fatty shouted out of envy. What? You lived with her for 3 days. Doesn't she loathe men? That depends on the man. I mean, everyone is different. You can't go saying because she was cold to you when you met that she's an icy beauty. Brother, this may possibly be a little harsh, but take it from me. If I were a woman, even I wouldn't want to be seen with you. Patting the fatty's shoulder, Zhuo Fan sighed. The fatty was sullen, his mouth twitching. God damn it, can you not cut me so deep then make a joke out of it? Although Zhuo Fan's eyes sharpened. Chu Qingqing's talent truly is amazing, but it may not be as monstrous as you'd think. She couldn't even beat Huangpu Qingyun. If these 6 dragons, 1 phoenix are the same, I can handle them easily. Zhuo Fan was pretty darn egotistical, yet the fatty didn't jump to criticize him. Since Zhuo Fan kicked a storm in Drifting Flowers edifice and escaped unharmed still, he was entitled to some bragging rights. It was now that the ever-silent Fong Qiubai coughed. Kid, if you really think so, you'd have the shock of your life 5 years later in the esoteric debate. Oh, what makes you say that? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. His eyes snapped on the divine dragon. Fong Qiubai squinted. Having been to Drifting Flowers edifice in person, you must know by now their situation. I met that girl as well. Her talent is outstanding, but the chaos around her had stalled her cultivation, making her fall behind other houses' disciples. You said that she couldn't match Huangpu Qingyun, but let me tell you this. When Chu Qingcheng was 20 and fought Huangpu Qingyun, I happened to be the judge. How do you think it ended? Zhuo Fan frowned. Ha ha ha. Huangpu Qingyun suffered a total defeat in 1 move. Fong Qiubai laughed. I could see then that this girl's talent surpassed the divine dragons. And the other house's disciples are no different. Zhuo Fan nodded, not daring to slight them again. Furthermore, with Drifting Flowers edifice having regained Chu Bijuan support, that girl can now focus on cultivating. I am eager to see how far she can reach in 5 years' time. But the other house's disciples will most likely go even higher. I look forward to see this time's esoteric debate. Ha ha ha. Fong Qiubai laughed at the sky. Zhuo Fan gasped, his gaze unprecedentedly hard. If there's any truth in Fong Qiubai's words, then these 6 dragons and 1 phoenix will probably exceed my clan's elders by then. He was going to face the same level of freak as him. Fatty nodded, seeing Zhuo Fan's dead serious face. Among the 6 dragons, Mary Woods has the forest fleeting dragon, Lin Xianfeng. Mary Woods has the most uncanny speed among the houses. And Lin Roofing's is even more so. He fleets about the trees like the wind, gone before you even know it. From Sword Marquis's abode heals golden armored sword dragon, Xie Tianshang. Sword Marquis's abode is an item refining house, also specialized in sword arts. Xie Tianshang is many times stronger than his younger brother, Xie Tianyang, a true sword genius. Sword Marquis's abode's sole profound ranked martial art, flowing spaces 9 forms, is so intricate that many elders can't even grasp it fully their entire lives. And they say that this kid had done it at 9. Unconceivable. Zhuofan listened engrossed as the fatty got him acquainted with every dragon. When Fatty reached Regent Estate, his hands trembled, his gaze hard. Brother, none of them can ever amount to the one I'm about to tell you next. Regent Estate's eldest young master, heaven-shaking dragon lord, Huangpu Qingtian. Taking a deep breath to compose himself, Fatty resumed. His younger brother, Huangpu Qingyun, you've met. But if you compare the two, the younger brother looks totally average, and the same goes for the 5 dragons. This is the true genius among geniuses, a freak among freaks. And it is this man we know the least about. But one thing is certain, the 5 dragons and 1 phoenix are not his match. Zhuofan's eyes widened, his heart jumped. Just now you said the 5 dragons and 1 phoenix are incredible, making me cautious, but then you go and tell me none of them can hold a candle to the 6th dragon. Just what kind of horror is that guy? The fatty patted Zhuofan's shoulder and sighed. Now, what do you get it? Brother, it's not that easy to interfere with Regent Estate, as you may think. Next to these freaks, the so-called demon Zhuofan everyone talks about falls short. Squinting, Zhuofan took a deep breath. No worries. At the next esoteric debate 5 years later, you will see a brand new Zhuofan and Luo clan. But first, there are some things that require my immediate attention. I hope the Imperial family can keep the Luo clan safe in the meantime. Eyes shining, Fatty and Fong Qiubai shared a look and smiled a nod. Rest assured, brother. Train in peace and prepare for the esoteric debate. Leave the Luo clan's safety to us. Also, if you stand out enough in the esoteric debate, Imperial Father will use this chance to hail you to the rank of noble house. Then, Regent Estate will find it much harder to touch you when it has to go through the Imperial family first. The fatty just promised any other clan's most cherished dream, but also entrusting him with a near-suicidal mission no clan would ever want Zhuofan knotted inside. Fortune has always favored the bold. In the thick of danger, opportunity avails itself. And this esoteric debate is Luo clan's best chance to shoot straight for the moon. Chapter 222, Thunder Swarm Mountain. Chapter 222, Thunder Swarm Mountain. The two had explained everything thoroughly to Zhuofan before leaving, seeing them go. Zhuofan's eyes shined. Young miss, gather everyone. It is time we go to Wind Gaze City. Luo Yunchang looked at him deeply before nodding. Not much later, they all gathered, except the Grand Elder, who was watching over the newcomers. Luo Yunchang and Zhuofan took the main seats, overlooking them as they explained what Fatty said. Even though shocked, everyone was sporting a serious face. The Imperial family's task was of monumental proportions. It wanted this fresh clan, not even a decade old, to fight against the 7 houses with a 1,000-year-old legacy. Each this was a fool's errand. Even Li Jingtian was frowning. Elderly, you've been living in Regent Estate until now. What are, in your opinion, my chances with Huangpu Qingtian? Zhuofan asked. The others settled down. Awaiting his answer, Li Jingtian shook his head. None whatsoever. The eyes of others widened. Their hearts jumped, and Zhuofan frowned. Li Jingtian's assessment was undoubtedly reliable, giving Zhuofan further shock. Old Li, Steward Zhuo isn't your run-of-the-mill. Wherever in Tianyu have you seen any other bone-tempering cultivator kill a dozen profound heaven experts in Tianyu? You're saying that twerp Huangpu Qingtian still holds a candle to our great Steward Zhuo? Shueqing Jian giggled a flattery. However, Zhuofan shot her a glare. Sister, sucking up has no place here. Please take this matter seriously, or I'll take what you said as wishing for my demise. Shueqing Jian zipped her mouth on the spot. She could feel the coldness in Zhuofan's tone. This also made the others tremble. The usual rampant and obnoxious Zhuofan actually knew to be cautious. At crucial times, his act earned their admiration. He wasn't one influenced by some cheap words of flattery, keeping his cool when it was needed. The mostly Jingtian secretly approved. Steward Zhuo, to be blunt, Third Prince and Fang Qiubai didn't see the real him, only speaking based on mere hearsay. But even if they had seen him, they'd have the same impression. Poise of a king and a talent of a freak. Zhuofan squinted. Go on. As Elder Shui mentioned, Steward Zhuo's bone-tempering cultivation is enough to kill profound heaven experts. But I feel the need to enlighten everyone here that Steward Zhuo isn't the first to have done this. 10 years ago, Huangpu Qingtian, in his second layer of bone-tempering stage, easily defeated Regent Estate's profound heaven elders. As you all know, their elders are unlike you Geeky and the others. Every one of them trained in imperial tyrant body art. How was that possible? Even Zhuofan couldn't help but cry out. His victories over profound heaven experts were thanks to his lightning wings and diamond sand body. He never thought it possible for a second method to exist in making another reach such power. Li Jingtian read this from his reaction and smiled dejectedly. They are the freaks roaming this world. It's as if they were born to trample everyone else under their feet. Before I left, he had always been under the High Venerable's tutelage, and I am unsure of his progress. But no question about it, he is in the profound heaven stage, just as Huangpu Qingyan. At least in the 5th layer, his real power is hard to fathom. Up to this point, Zhuofan had been in a constant frown. He never once saw it possible for one man's exceptional talent to reach such an incredible level. Thus, he refused to believe one man's talent could be so monstrous. Taking into account old Li's opinion, does this mean Steward Zhuo has not even a glimmer of hope in beating him? Qiu Yanhai turned to Zhuofan in worry. He was no longer hating Zhuofan for forcing them to join. On the contrary, he was completely grateful. Without Zhuofan, he and Shui Qingjian wouldn't have grown so powerful so quickly. Zhuofan was their matchmaker and was worried for his safety. Chuckling, Li Jingtian said, "That may hardly be the case. What I spoke of was in terms of strength. It just means Steward Zhuo is unable to face him head-on. Others are clueless to Steward Zhuo's tricks, but which elder among us isn't clear on how he operates? Remember how every one of us joined the Luo clan." They all looked at each other and burst out laughing. Indeed, the dread of Zhuofan wasn't based on power, but a shrewdness similar to Yugiki's. It involved schemes hardly anyone could pierce. Taking that into account as well, then Zhuofan's chances were through the roof. Yan's song praised. This esoteric debate may very well be the strongest since its inception. Thank my lucky stars, I joined the one last century. Or I may as well turn into cannon fodder in this one. The others cracked up again, to which Zhuofan just smiled. But one name carved itself in his heart, Huangpu Qingtian. Elders, do any of you know of a place with thick thunderclouds in Tianyu? One voice spoke. Why does Steward Zhuo ask? With a flash, Zhuofan held a flickering egg. He smiled. This is why. 6th level spiritual beast, Thunder Skylark's egg. They all cried in shock. Li Jingtian watched Zhuofan in envy. Hey, Steward, Zhuo has many hidden treasures, even a 6th level spiritual beast's egg. If it hatches, we will have a beast that will even give a radiant stage a run for his money. Yeah, we toiled long and hard, yet only managed to get 5th level spirit animals. Who knew Steward Zhuo would hold a 6th level spiritual beast? This is a rare treasure, even for a radiant stage. Steward Zhuo's methods are flawless. Shui Qingjian and Qiu Yanhai admired him with a dismissive wave. Zhuofan smiled. Please, enough with the buttering. I only obtained this egg through chance. And because it was damaged, I had to go to Drifting Flower's edifice and use Bodhi Jade sap to restore it. Then various things cropped up and had no time to mind it. Only recently I managed to restore it. But to make it hatch, I must find a place with thick lightning bolts. Easy, just set up a thunder-gathering array. Qingjian shrugged. Zhuofan shot her alternative option on the spot. The lightning will be too feeble and also costly. I want to incubate it in a natural thundercloud. This is also its power will reach its peak. Li Jingtian and the rest nodded. Incubating it with poor lightning bolts would only waste this grand 6th-level spiritual beast potential. They knew what was on Zhuofan's mind. This was another ace up his sleeve in dealing with Huangpu Qingtian. The hatching of this spirit animal was of great import. If we're speaking of a natural place engulfed in thunderstorm all year round in Tianyu, only one place comes to mind. Li Jingtian caressed his beard. Qingjian was frantic. No way. That's a forbidden area. We already have our hands full with the 7 houses. Isn't that enough trouble as it is? What place are you talking about? Zhuofan was quite piqued. The elders exchanged a glance and said together, Thunder Swarm Mountain. Thunder Swarm Mountain? What's wrong with it? As Steward Zhuo can imagine, it is a place where lightning strikes every day, all day. Its skies blanketed with thick thunderclouds. This place had been like this ever since the founding of the empire. Li Jingtian spoke. Zhuofan's eyes shined. Perfect. I'll have my egg hatch there. You can't. Qingjian cried in panic. Since 60 years ago, one of the empire's 3 guardian sects, demon scheming sect exiled for criminals there to receive thousands of thunder strikes a day. If we go there and release the 4 by mistake, we'll be offending the demon scheming sect and suffer their wrath. Zhuofan squinted. Are you saying the 4 criminals are being guarded by the demon scheming sect? Not all. Demon scheming sect just left them there and ignored them ever since. They thought none would dare risk offending them and let the 4 out. What bloody reason is there to fear then? Even if we do let them out by mistake, we just have to haul ass out of there with none the wiser. Zhuofan snickered. Qingjian was startled. That's true, but won't that be too vile? If demon scheming sect ever finds out, we're done for. But how could the bold Zhuofan be so cowardly? If he'd be panicking over every trifle, how could he have ever risen to be a demonic emperor? Zhuofan slapped his thigh, settling on taking Li Jingtian to Thunder Swarm Mountain. This used to be in preparation for Lightning Canyon, but now became a means to deal with Huangpu Qingtian as well. But before he set out, he entrusted an unbelievable task to Yin Song and Lei Yuding. This task would decisively affect Luo clan's place in Tianyu. Chapter 223. The Abominable 4 Scheming Demons. Chapter 223. The Abominable 4 Scheming Demons. Whoosh! 2 figures flashed among the clouds. They were Zhuofan and Li Jingtian on their way to Thunder Swarm Mountain. Elderly, how much longer? Zhuofan rubbed his thunder ring. Li Jingtian calculated. By my estimates, we should arrive in 3 days. Good. Zhuofan flapped his wings and tripled his speed. The faster we get there, the better. Who? Then, a sudden attack came at them in the form of a shadow. Zhuofan had no time to stop. About to smash into it, Li Jingtian intervened, however, and grabbed Zhuofan's neck. He then placed Zhuofan behind him, but the shadow sped straight for them, ghostly dragon claw. Li Jingtian shouted bam. With a devastating sound, the shadow was sent flying while Li Jingtian stood unfazed, tall and proud. Yet he couldn't stop his red hand from shaking. Elderly, are you all right? Zhuofan looked on carefully, while Li Jingtian was frowning. Don't worry. That item is a spiritual weapon, most likely a 5th grade one. If not for being a body cultivator, I might have ended up dead. Sighing, Zhuofan nodded, then breathed easier. Hi. You must be someone that blocked my 5th grade spiritual weapon, the bone staff with your bare hand. It looks like I caught myself a big fish. A creepy snicker accompanied the appearance of a man not 100 meters from the pair, holding a black item in his hands. Under a closer look, Zhuofan could see that the black item was a 2-meter-long black staff with a human skull at the ends. The wielder, however, was a hideous pygmy. The evil air wafting from him made one's nerves tighten. 3rd layer of Radiant Stage. Zhuofan's eyes widened as he and Li Jingtian cried at the same time. The pygmy was excited all of a sudden and gesticulated in joy. Hi. Now you know how great I am, so be good and surrender, and I may be kind enough to spare your miserable lives. Humph! A mere third layer of radiant stage expert dares show off before me. Li Jingtian stomped forward and released his mighty power. The pygmy was cowered back again and again by the display and gasped. What? You're in the 6th layer? Ha ha ha! How the hell did you live so long to reach the 3rd layer of radiant stage when you attack without even scouting your opponent first? Zhua Fan mocked. It's my turn to ask the questions. Who are you and why did you attack us? The pygmy cackled after sparing Zhua Fan a second glance. Ha ha! A puny 5th layer of bone-tempering cultivator thinks himself worthy of hearing your grandpa's name? You little shit that is neither human nor monster dares to call yourself my grandpa? Zhua Fan's face was vicious as he glared. Elderly. No more questions. Deal with this midget, and let's be on our way. With pleasure. Li Jingtian had long found this pygmy's attitude annoying. Zhua Fan shows off because he is the steward of a clan, and he has both ambition and power within himself. While you, a filthy little shite, too ugly to even look at, and weaker than me to boot, dare do the same. You have another thing coming. So Li Jingtian eagerly went on the offensive the instant Zhua Fan gave the order. The pygmy wasn't scared by Li Jingtian's charge, however, and started twirling his bone staff bang. Metallic clashes rang all around. Li Jingtian didn't use a weapon, but as a body cultivator, he honed his body into a weapon in and of itself. Every one of his strikes was no lesser than one coming from the bone staff, and since the two of them were of different cultivation layers, the pygmy was on the retreat with every blow from Li Jingtian. Despite holding the advantage with a spiritual weapon, he wielded the black staff with uncanny movements, avoiding all attacks. But when his energy reserves were up, only death would welcome him. Blast it! I really hit a snag this time. The pygmy started cursing from exhaustion. Then, clenching his teeth, he suddenly jumped to gain some distance, but Li Jingtian realized his attempt at running away, so he shouted and struck the black staff fiercely with his hands. This time, however, as the black staff danced, the pygmy was shrouded in black energy, while the bone staff started letting out eerie screeches the next second. The vile energy took the shape of a skeleton as it cackled at the two. This demonic cultivation method is beyond vile. Zhua Fan frowned. He never thought this weird pygmy would be a sinister demonic cultivator, but he wasn't worried. When it came to sinister demonic methods, the wraith style used by Li Jingtian was by far one of the most wicked out there. Hi. You didn't expect this, did you? I am a dreadful demonic cultivator. With this low, profound, ranked martial art of mine, Demon Shadowbone Staff, I will swallow your body and soul. Scared now? Ha! The pygmy crackled from within the shadowy skeleton. Li Jingtian only grinned. Moron! What? You still dare take me on? Then die. The pygmy sure had a screw loose, though he had quite the sharp pair of ears on him. The mockery in Li Jingtian's words earned his rage, charging at him with the image of the skeleton, but Li Jingtian only smirked without an ounce of fear, just as a black dragon image engulfed him. You blind little shit. Let me show you true demonic martial arts. Wraith Style's first move, Soaring Demonic Dragon. Roar. With a reverberating roar, Li Jingtian's power surged and charged at the skeleton image. In a totally anticlimactic way, the skeleton image up and vanished without even a sound. The pygmy spurted blood and was sent flying just as his staff snapped in two. A 5th-grade spiritual weapon was broken by using brute force alone. The Mad Dipper combined with Wraith art was a force to be reckoned with. Looking at his broken black staff, the pygmy realized the error of his ways. He really kicked a wall this time. His eyes began to show fear. Wait, hold on, I give. Please let me go. The pygmy started wailing and begging for his life. Li Jingtian turned to Zhua Fan for opinions, only to see him looking elsewhere and letting him handle it. So Li Jingtian looked at the pygmy with a cruel grin. It's far too late now, you little shit. Li Jingtian laughed and slapped his chest. The pygmy wailed, Brothers, your big brother is about to die. Come save me. Who dares kill my brother? An ear-piercing cry resounded and startled Li Jingtian into seeing 3 shadows flying at him. They were on him in a flash. The 3 launched attacks at the same time, forcing him to jump next to Zhuofan, but the sight of them had Zhuofan and Li Jingtian slack-jawed. Before there was one, and now there were 4 pygmies. Though there were differences here and there despite how ugly they all were, one was sharp, one was wretched, and the last was shy. Now that the 3 helped the first pygmy up, he regained his brash tone and started cackling. Ha ha ha. So now you're scared since my brothers are here? Give yourself up, and I may be inclined to spare your wretched lives. Zhuofan's face twitched and darkened. He definitely has more than one screw loose. He just had a harsh lesson beaten in him a moment ago, but now he's back to showing off. Guess you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It was fine if his backers were stronger, but Zhuofan could easily see they were of the same cultivation. Elderly had no problem with one. So where did this tyke get all that courage from? Elderly, for the sake of humanity, get rid of these little shits. I can't bear to watch. Zhuofan, sighed Li Jingtian, however, recalled something and turned grave. Steward Zhua, we may have hit a snag this time. Startled, Zhuofan saw Li Jingtian cup his hands. Are you perhaps the legendary 4 scheming demons, the demon scheming sect, placed in Thunderswarm Mountain? Widening his eyes, Zhuofan turned to the 4. Didn't the demon scheming sect lock them up? What are they doing up and about? At his mention, the 4 assumed weird poses and shouted to the world. Indeed, we are the demonic cultivator hero quartet, known to all as the abominable 4 scheming demons. The creepy display the 4 put on and their pygmy appearances was jarring to one's eyes. Zhuofan was even cringing. These 4 are grade A weirdos, one dumber than the next. I just can't figure out why in the world demon scheming sect would take them in. Elderly, I still believe it's in humanity's best interest you deal with them forthwith. Now I know why the demon scheming sect threw them in the Thunderswarm Mountain and forgot about them. Humph! Not even I would want to spare one moment longer seeing these weirdos. But not only Li Jingtian was unmoving, his face only grew heavier. Steward Zhe, they are more than their exotic appearance led you to believe. These 4 threw Qianyu in chaos when they joined hands back in the day. Zhuofan squinted and looked at them again. Since it was so, he was very much eager to see how. Chapter 224, Dreadful Unity Tactic. Chapter 224, Dreadful Unity Tactic. Big brother, they look impressive. It's best we make a run for it. One pygmy hunkered behind the other 3 and peeked his head out at Zhuofan in fear. Zhuofan was stumped. The hell, you balked after some hot air? This never happened before, not once. What are you doing posing around as our enemy then? Why not just scram in the first place? Another pygmy noticed this contradiction and cuffed the shy one over the head. Coward, you're always cramping our style. We won't take you with us ever again. And our eldest bro was hurt by them. How can we let this slide? Zhuofan nodded. That's more like it. He was sensible to even neglect that part about their style. This guy's reaction is more like it. That's a proper human response. But that thought didn't finish forming as the pygmy added another slap. And even if we don't get revenge for old bro, how are we going to get compensation for getting his bone staff ruined? They have to pony up. The pygmy was then holding the halves of the black staff close to his heart. On the verge of crying, Zhuofan's face twitched and darkened. His previous thought was wiped clean off his mind. I stand corrected. They're inhuman. You don't care about your elder bro's wound, and yet you cry over some junk? Even if it is a 5th grade spiritual weapon, how can Radiant Stage experts bawl over something like this? In the end, the eldest pygmy ignored his moronic brother's senseless talk and shouted as he hit their heads, God damn it! I didn't call you over to squabble, but to fight. I'll lead and you follow. He then charged at Zhuofan and Elderly. But on his second step, his wounds flared and he spat blood. Even so, his eyes were fixed on Zhuofan. Attack, attack. The last pygmy thought of making an even bigger scene and was now hopping and skipping from the side, egging them on. Though he showed not an ounce of intent to join the bustle, their eyes squinting. The other 3 turned to this pygmy and started raining kicks and punches on this cheerleader. Blast it all to hell. Every single time you stand aside and cheer, but are the last one to help. Yeah, third bro. If you don't charge first this time, we won't charge at all. Let's all calm down a bit. Old bro is wounded. It might be best if we make a tactical retreat. The cowering pygmy in the back earned a glare from the rest. Then the three started taking out on him. Fourth bro, you but in every single time and ruin our morale and make us lose. Yeah, we wouldn't have lost the last time if you'd have charged with us. How else could the sect leader manage to banish us in that wretched place to suffer so many lightning attacks otherwise? The three were quite springy in giving the fourth a run for his money. Then the fourth thought of something and barked. What a second, bro. If not for him being so damn petty, going after the spiritual weapon the enemy dropped, we wouldn't have lost. In a blink, the three stopped and turned to the pygmy that wanted compensation. Now the fourth joined the squabble, and the three ganged on the second bro. Joafan's face was having a field day from all that twitching. What the hell's wrong with these weirdos? What have they come here for? Beat each other up. Their enemy was right across, yet they were having the time of their lives, smacking themselves instead. Joafan couldn't make out if they were mocking the two or plain dumb as a rock. Elderly, are these guys even strong? Joafan sneered. Li Jingtian sweated. Should be. I only heard rumors about them and never met them myself. They say these four are quadruplets and fit together like a glove. This is why the demon scheming sect recruited them and taught them a unity tactic. They usually win by numbers despite being weaker. That doesn't look united to me. How do they even fight if all they do is beat each other? Joafan scratched his nose. Li Jingtian laughed wryly, despite the four's fight getting more traction, and explained, Steward Jua, just as you heard, this must have led to their banishment. They may be able to work together flawlessly in battle, but their characters are totally different and hard to reach a consensus. Speaking of the first pygmy, he is the eldest among the four scheming demons. Violent demon. He is brash, rude, and very much brainless. No matter how strong the opponent he faces, he is the first to charge head first. If his brothers follow or not is another matter entirely. This is also why we didn't sense any soul ripple to scout our level and instead skipped to throwing the black staff at us. Oh, I'm well aware of his stupidity. Joafan nodded. Li Jingtian pointed at the pygmy getting a beating. The one asking for compensation is the second brother, Scrooge Demon. He is the cheapskate of the four, narrow-minded, and always forgoes long-term profit in favor of short-term pocket change. He is a typical case of strain at gnats and swallow camels. That guy deserves to be beaten. He ignores his elder bro and laments the loss of a spiritual weapon. One look at him, and it makes me want to smack him too. Joafan watched him get clobbered without remorse. Li Jingtian chuckled, pointing at the cheering, yet the least one to do anything like a mascot. That is the third brother, Sly Demon. He is sharp and expert in sneak attacks. Rumor has it that each time the four fight, he always stands at the sideline doing nothing. But every time heads come rolling on the enemy's sides, it's all thanks to him. He's your typical opportunist. This guy has at least a redeeming quality, hoodwinking his enemies. And yet he uses his smarts to steal the credit from right under his brother's noses. At least he's much better than the first two. Joafan nodded. Li Jingtian pointed to the cowardly pygmy. He is the fourth brother, Wimp Demon. In every fight, he stands behind his first bro. But some say he is the strongest among the four. Many experts despise his nature and slight him, only to fall at his hands in the end. Joafan nodded. Elderly, why don't you go and mess with them a bit? Force them to show their skills. Li Jingtian shook his head vehemently. Steward Jua, don't joke about this. They may not look like much, but they're dreadful together. I heard that a century ago, they were only in the 9th layer of profound heaven stage but killed a 2nd layer of radiant stage expert. Just think, any radiant stage expert is hard enough to fight, but these four killed one when they were in the profound heaven stage. Now that they're in the 3rd layer of radiant stage, I'm not confident I can come out alive. What's that got to do with anything? Their eldest bro is wounded, and their unity tactics effect will fall sharply. With a snicker, Joafan got Li Jingtian to see things from a different angle suddenly. Joafan pointed at Li Jingtian and yelled at the pygmies, Hey, this old dude said your dad mated with a swine and ended up having you four weirdos. The four stopped fighting and turned their vicious eyes on Li Jingtian. Zhou Fan chuckled and jumped back half a mile, leaving Li Jingtian their sole lone target. Li Jingtian paled from fright and wiped the sweat of his brow. "Steward Zhou, you screwed me over." The four got to their feet and walked to Li Jingtian side by side. Their faces lost their dumb looks and eyed him with savagery. Wimp Demon was no longer cowardly. Sly Demon no longer dodgy, and Scrooge Demon's eyes lost their greed. In that instant, the four became just like Violent Demon. Releasing their vile power, Zhou Fan's brow shuddered and his eyes shined. All while Li Jingtian's mood sank, and his eyes glittered with tears as he cursed Zhou Fan in his heart to the ends of the earth. "I may be the Luo clan's elder, but that doesn't mean you get to screw me over." But the deal was already done, and Li Jingtian had no choice but to face the music. "That's right. You're all eyesores, so come on." "Huh." The four howled and with bloodshot eyes jumped at him. The four figures merged in midair and caused this Mad Dipper to gasp as he took 3 steps back, overwhelmed with shock. Li Jingtian knew this was their unity tactic, but feeling it on his own skin was far more dreadful than hearing about it. The four's powers combined, but not merely additively, but multiplied. Li Jingtian had no time to be careless, releasing his all in his next punch, colliding with their attack boom. With a loud noise, Li Jingtian was thrown 100 meters into the air, feeling the blood in his heart boiling. Yet the four savage figures didn't stop for a second. "Curses. You want to go head-to-head? Fine then, bring it." Li Jingtian held the four demons in fear, but once the fight started, his martial fanatic self reared its head. He was no longer afraid, but laughing. Wraith Style's first move, Soaring Demonic Dragon. Roar. A draconic roar echoed, and Li Jingtian was enveloped by a black dragon's image. In his unparalleled state, he charged at the four scheming demons this time. Li Jingtian, with the help of his profound ranked martial art, had gained enough power to overwhelm the four's combined vile energy. The four's eyes widened, not expecting Li Jingtian to be so amazing. "Ah, we're finished." Despite saying so, when they were about to collide with Li Jingtian, they snickered, Hi. That's enough playing." In that instant, the strange united attack up and vanished before Li Jingtian. Making his attack hit not, but air at the same time, figures appeared around him that escaped the detection of his discerning field. Only a creepy snicker reached his ears, as if to prove he was surrounded. Zhou Fan's eyes widened from the side and trembled. Something is definitely off about them. Chapter 225. Necro Dragon Scree Chapter shakes the four demons. Chapter 225. Necro Dragon Screech shakes the four demons. Hi. Among the cawing like laughter, Li Jingtian's eyes darted to the after images popping around him with all the seriousness he could muster. Then, a sudden wind spelled the arrival of Sly Demon, giving him a resounding slap from the front before vanishing in a thin air. Li Jingtian couldn't quite make out what just happened, but the reddening cheek bore testament so fast. Zhou Fan cried out, but it was far from over. It was now Violent Demon's turn. He gave Li Jingtian a slap from the front again, before completing his attack with the same vanishing act. What was even more astonishing was that he hit the same spot it followed with Scrooge Demon and Wimp Demon. Slapping him the same place, Li Jingtian's anger got the better of him as he roared, "You damn little shits! What you think you're doing hitting the same cheek? Come on, here's the other." Hi. What's our entertainment got to do with you?" A cackle came from all around in waves while Zhou Fan squinted with a thoughtful gaze. Curious, Violent Demon was never that fast. How is it that his speed increased even when he is still injured? Yet his attack got weaker. "I wonder. Elderly, let them hit you." Zhou Fan shouted. Li Jingtian was stumped. "Haven't I been hit enough already as it is?" But thinking about it again, he soon realized Zhou's aim and grinned. "You little shits, I will pay those slaps back 100-fold. Taking a deep breath, Li Jingtian roared, "You bunch of mongrels, let's see if you have the guts to hit my other cheek." Hi. No, we won't. We'll only hit just that one." The four's creepy laughter echoed again, followed by another slap on Li Jingtian's cheek. But before the hand could even tickle Li Jingtian's face, A large hand clutched it. Li Jingtian snickered at Sly Demon, his eyes sparkling. Damn bastard, didn't I tell you to hit me on the other cheek? Now you're mine. Curses, we've been had. Gasping, Sly Demon found that Li Jingtian's words were all to goad him into slapping again. Now that Li Jingtian knew Sly Demon's target, regardless of the speed employed, it was easy to catch him when Li Jingtian's guard was up. This was also Zhuo Fan's plan when he spoke out before Li Jingtian's grip tightened. There was no way Sly Demon could get out of Li Jingtian's grip, not when he was 3 layers weaker. The other demons shifted around at high speed as they panicked. Damn, we've been had. Time to meet your maker. Your unity tactic is done for. Snickering, Li Jingtian slapped Sly Demon's head with such power behind it. Especially when it came from the 6th layer of Radiant Stage Li Jingtian. It was really a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Any one of the demons was clear on that the Sly Demon started struggling and crying out, I'm dead, so dead. For real this time. Oh God, oh gods, I'm gonna die. But the oddest thing happened. In this critical moment, the other 3 demons didn't rush to save him, but were crying out in fear. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed, his mind making the right adjustments to his train of thoughts. Yet this mighty palm hit nothing but air in the end. Li Jingtian was shocked, watching Sly Demon's head sinking into his shoulders to dodge the bullet. When the demon's head popped back out, he sighed relieved. God darn it. You're in my hand already, so why won't you just die? Li Jingtian was consumed by rage as he launched a flurry of punches. But with incredible shock, Sly Demon, despite having his arm in a vice, twisted around in this limited space he was in, dodging every one of those deadly attacks. Li Jingtian was slack-jawed. What the hell is this? What kind of movement is that? But what truly took the cake was the 3 demons around still crying around in fear, but were not lending Sly Demon any helping hand. Were they abandoning him or confident in their brother's power? In a blink, Li Jingtian was at a complete loss. These 4 scheming demons were freaks in the truest sense of the word, elderly. Watch out, Zhuo Fan warned, and Li Jingtian saw the other 3 demons flying at him, but their speed was far from fast as before, giving Li Jingtian time to react. As his hands still held on his Sly Demon, his legs swept. But what happened next was downright bizarre. The 3 demons actually closed their eyes in fear, then leaned back to dastardly avoid the kick while still going straight for Li Jingtian. The hell? What just happened? Not only can I not make sense of anything they're doing, I can't even anticipate their moves. One minute, they were charging in with all bravado. The next, they were flitting all over the place in fear, but one thing was certain, they were on the advantage. With a cry, Violent Demon grabbed Li Jingtian's hand that held Sly Demon and chomped Li Jingtian, let go from the pain, and Sly Demon rejoiced in his newfound freedom. The 4 demons then returned into circling Li Jingtian at high speeds and letting out eerie laughter. He may be a martial fanatic and fearless in face of adversity, but fighting these 4 demons had him at his wit's end. He couldn't make heads or tails when they were weak or strong. It was like hitting frickin' cotton. The 4 noticed his predicament and laughed as they charged. Brothers, let's fleece this guy and shame him thoroughly. Oh! The other cheered, and Li Jingtian turned serious, eyeing the afterimages around him. But then, they up and vanished, appearing instead as hazy images. As if ghosts from the underworld. Li Jingtian punched. He hit nothing, of course, while the ghosts wrapped around his body. In a blink, his jacket and storage ring left him soundlessly. As if swallowed by those gray ghosts. When the ghosts drew away, they once again let out creepy laughter. Li Jingtian was left in flimsy undergarments, watching his surroundings in shock. I see. So this is their unity tactic, as expected from a demonic skill, striking at the heart of things. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and shouted, Elderly, we are not their match. Retreat at once. Zhuo Fan was the first to fly away. Li Jingtian gnashed his teeth and snorted in anger before following suit. The 4 figures reappeared as they watched the pair leave with smiles. Humph! That old geezer thinks he can get away after humiliating us? Hi, brothers, charge! Oh! Under Violent Demon's order, they all cried in unison and gave chase. They were not in the least bit slower than Li Jingtian. Perhaps even faster. Li Jingtian threw a look back and paled as he arrived next to Zhuo Fan. They are clearly in the third layer of Radiant Stage, so how are they surpassing my speed? They'll soon be upon us. No worries. That's only the third brother's cultivation method, which focused on speed alone. Even if he does catch up to us, he can't do jack squat. Snickering, Zhuo put on an ambiguous smile. Li Jingtian was startled, but clueless nonetheless. Elderly, once they get close, we'll finish them off in a blink. What? Li Jingtian cried. How? He had tangled with the four at full power to no avail. He couldn't find any real way of dealing with these weird quadruplets. Zhuo Fan said. They use a unity tactic, so getting rid of one is of course impossible. You need to defeat all four of them at the same time. Going after just one is pointless. Then how? Li Jingtian muttered, smiling. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. Elderly. Do you recall Ray Styles' third move? Li Jingtian's eyes lit up and nodded, as both of them broke out in laughter. Then, shall we do this together? Li Jingtian asked, of course. Rather be safe than sorry. Zhuo Fan smiled, and his hand made a sign. With Li Jingtian copying him, the four demons were right behind the two when Violent Demon screamed. You two better give up, and I may be inclined to spare your miserable lives. And pay us for the broken bone staff, Scrooge Demon added with a snicker. Zhuo Fan and Li Jingtian shared a look and nodded. They grounded to a halt and shot straight for the oblivious four, shouting in unison. Ray Styles' third move, Necro Dragon Screech. Roar. With two draconic roars, two soul ripples shot straight for four scheming demons, they cried in shock, having not expected them to know a sound martial art. The bane of their unity tactic, a pity realizing wasn't the same as escaping it in a blink, the mighty sound waves crashed into the four. They couldn't even wail their pain as they spat blood and toppled over like logs. Even the forest beneath them was affected, turning into a place of death as animal corpses littered the earth. After all, this was the combined attack of two souls. How could the average man handle it? These four third-layer Radiant Stage experts were no different. Peace soon instilled once again, though carrying with it an eerie tune. Zhuo Fan, an elderly, watched the dead-eyed four demons on the ground and gave a smug smile, Li Jingtian in particular. He snatched back his jacket and storage ring from Scrooge Demon and cursed, God damn it, what are you doing still holding them when you're out like a light? No wonder he's Scrooge Demon. Well, let me return the favor and make you demons in the truest sense by sending you all to hell. Elderly, wait. Zhuo Fan rushed to stop him. I still have use for the four. Seal their cultivation for now. Li Jingtian nodded after a pause, catching Zhuo Fan's drift. Hey, the four's hell has only just begun. Chapter 226. Even sages are idiots, sometimes. Chapter 226. Even sages are idiots, sometimes. Why do I feel so woozy? Violent Demon opened his heavy eyelids, but his vision was still foggy. He reached to scratch his head, but oddly enough, he couldn't. Looking down, damn it, I'm hogtied. Turning to his sides, his bros were in the same boat, all strapped around a 3-meter thick tree. He wailed, Oi, wake up you fools, we're strapped here. The three were roused and slowly getting their wits about them, what little they ever had. When they saw they were in a very tight pinch, and their cultivation sealed, they started wailing, Oh, bloody hell! Who's the bastard that dares tie us for demons, your grandpas? Release us right now, or I'll give you a fate worse than death. Ah, these little shits sure are bonkers. Look at them, like lambs to the slaughter, yet still so feisty. A chuckle announced Zhuo Fan and Li Jingtian's casual entrance in their field of view, one filled with derision. In response, the four rained curses. Li Jingtian's face was dark and was ready to hit them. You damn mongrels, one more peep out of you, and I'll have your heads. The barking halted on the spot, but their beady eyes still glared at the duo. Zhuo Fan and Li Jingtian only laughed. These four were blokes, but at least knew to read the mood. They balked under the tiniest threat, making it much easier for what Zhuo Fan had in mind next. Cough. I will now ask you some questions. Be honest, or I'll make sure you are 6 feet under. Fan coughed dryly. The four just shook their heads and puffed out their chests. Quite brave, or maybe moronic. Ask away, but I won't answer one. Fan brushed past their rash reaction and asked, I heard you were sealed in Thunder Swarm Mountain. How come you're out? Who released you? Don't know. Violent Demon, shouted. Fan snorted. Nerves of steel, I see. Elderly, waste him. Wait, I really don't know. Violent Demon's courage was deflated on the spot as he pleaded, I beg you, let us go. We've only been out for a few months and hardly played enough. We don't want to die. Screw you if you cherish your life so much. What are you doing posing as heroes? Fan glared. These little shits are only good at putting up an act. But they didn't know when to stop and almost fooled even him in thinking they were tough as Nail's Violent Demon heard Fan's demand and nodded, all while his brothers were snickering. But a glare from the eldest brother had them fall in line. Fan rolled his eyes. I've never seen such top-notch weirdos in either of my lives. But the doubts he had were far from cleared. You're saying someone let you out, and yet you don't know? You expect me to buy such an obvious lie? Our lives are in your hands. We'd never dare do anything of the sort. We really don't know. Violent Demon was bitter as he tried to painstakingly remember. 8 months ago, we were still trapped in the Thunder Swarm Mountain, struck by thousands of lightning daily. Then a sudden crack opened in the barrier. But when we got out, there was no one there. So we went about doing the usual, killing, burning, pillaging, ruining some cities and clans. You know, the works. Hold up. Why on earth did you start doing that anyway? Fan blinked. The four looked at each other and sneered, with Violent Demon growing cocky in his creepy laughter. I can tell with one look you're a bookworm and narrow-minded. We are demonic heroes. What demonic cultivator out there doesn't pillage? The more we kill, the evilier we are, the further we walk on the demonic path. And our demonic hero's life will thus find its glorious meaning. For lunatics is more like it. Li Jingtian mocked. Fan scratched his nose, getting pissed as well. You're the narrow-minded ones. I have studied the demonic path my entire life, even becoming the demonic emperor. And then here you are telling me I'm the shallow one when it comes to it? At the end of it all, the so-called demonic path comes down to one word only, selfishness. Any and all demonic cultivators are cool-headed, working only to further their benefits by any means necessary. In fact, pillaging is against our path. For us, this is only a means to an end, not our purpose. But these four blokes turned the method into a purpose. They couldn't be more wrong. If the demon path goal was this, then the entire world would have long turned on them and wiped them out. Just why the hell did the demon scheming sect even take them in? Fan held his head, not bothered to waste any more time with these blokes. But his heart was in doubt. Just who released them, and why? He thought for a while, but found no answer. Fan continued. Why did you attack us then? Who told you to? A dumb luck. Violent Demon mumbled. Fan shook his head. Elderly, waste him. Wait, I'm being honest here. Violent Demon looked at Fan on the verge of crying. Why is this lil bro so bent on wasting people? He was even more violent than even himself. That's the truth of it. Since our escape from Thunderswarm Mountain, we laid 4 cities to ruin and killed around 500,000 people. We soon found ourselves bored and were about to choose our 5th city to waste when we met an imp at some point and made a bet with him, who knew we'd lose and had a promise to look for ingredients in his stead. And where were we supposed to find it? Robbing people, of course, especially those in the profound heaven stage or above. Their rings must be loaded with ingredients. So, you saw us flying there and just up and threw your black staff at us? Fan stared Violent Demon down, looking for lies and forcing him to squeeze a nod. We thought we'd find plenty of good stuff and complete the bet, but who knew we'd fail right at the start? Such a dumb luck, wah. Violent Demon started bawling like a kid, which threw the other 3 into doing the same. Fan and Li Jingtian were stumped. These little twerps are weirdos, no kidding. One minute they were savage, the next they played the victim, like wronged children. Fine, don't cry. Whoever cries, I'll waste him. Fan shouted, and the tears grounded to a halt. Fan shook his head inwardly. I just can't tell when they're being real or just faking it. But he still had some doubts that needed clarified. You guys know when to concede having lost a bet. Of course, we are demonic heroes. When have we ever been anything but trustworthy? Violent Demon puffed up his chest and spoke self-righteously. The other brothers followed suit, looking him in the eye. Zhuofan walked to him and squinted. The four looked back cautiously, their hearts in their throat. Li Jingtian came before Zhuofan and said, "Steward Zhua, can we trust anything that came out of their mouths?" Zhuofan nodded and said, "Their heads may be screwed on wrong and speaking in tongues, but they are more or less telling the truth. The one who released them wished to incite chaos in Tianyu. They're not here for us. Then we can rest easy and continue onward to Thunderswarm Mountain. I was afraid our tracks were followed, and someone laid a trap for us." Li Jingtian sighed. Zhuofan nodded. But his face was dead serious like this. The two stood there in silence for a while. Zhuofan was mulling over something, and Li Jingtian stayed nearby, so he wouldn't disturb. As for the four demons, they were watching the duo nervously, worried for their poor lives. Finally, Li Jingtian couldn't help but voice his confusion. "Steward Zhua, are you thinking about our trip to Thunderswarm Mountain, or how to deal with these guys?" "Ha ha ha. Since these little guys' interference wasn't on purpose, then Thunderswarm Mountain will be safe. As for these weirdos, I'm of the mind to recruit them. It just so happens that I have a unity tactic on me that suits them like a glove." Zhuofan smiled. Li Jingtian nodded. "I knew Steward Zhua is lenient and found them appealing. But, Steward Zhua, don't you need to think it further? You may offend the Demon Scheming Sect if you take them." "Hardly. Since Demon Scheming Sect threw them away and ignored them for 60 years, it won't matter. Moreover, true great men don't mind trifles and are unafraid of some petty danger. So stop thinking as if this is a matter of epic importance." Zhuofan shook his head. "Then Steward Zhua wants to..." Sighing, Zhuofan took out the bloodworm gourd and frowned. "I no longer have on me cold spiritual beast blood, so how can I place an active bloodworm egg in the pills and hoodwink the four morons into taking them? Their brains may be slow, but they are radiant stage experts still." Li Jingtian watched him oddly and blinked in awkwardness. Steward Zhua, they are under our complete control. I assume there's no need to go as far as hoodwinking them into eating the pill as well." Shuddering, Zhuofan went beet red and face slapped himself. "What a fool I am. I deceived Li Jingtian into taking the bloodworm because he was just too amazing. But against these four little twerps under my control, I don't need to waste so much time. I'll just give it to them. Sigh, here I am saying others have screwed up heads, while mine is on the fritz as well." Zhuofan blushed hotter, even avoiding Li Jingtian's gaze. "Elderly, please forget that just now." Li Jingtian stifled a laughter, watching this treacherous Steward Zhua, who knew he'd be so oblivious today. Steward Zhua, could you give me 2 of those worms? I want to try stuffing it into others' mouths as well." Li Jingtian snickered as he saw Zhuofan closing in on the four. Zhuofan raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Sure." Thus the two, with 2 worms each, snickered at the 4 demons. The 4 were now shaking in fear and wailing. "What are you planning? Haven't we been honest here? Why are you still?" Bloodworms entered each of their mouths, forever branding them with the Luo clan seal. Chapter 227, Godly Tactic. Chapter 227, Godly Tactic. With that settled, Zhuofan had Li Jingtian release the 4 and restore their cultivation. The first thing the 4 did with their newfound freedom was to band together and assume that dumb pose again. "Humph, you got some nerve tying us up and feeding us worms. This shame has to be paid back. Even if you surrender, we will not spare your miserable lives." "Yeah, we won't spare your miserable lives, for sure." The other 3 demons mimicked Violent Demon. Yet Li Jingtian and Zhuofan shared a look and sneered. The 4 demons were puzzled. What's going on? Why aren't they cowering? Before they could make sense of anything, a blood mark appeared on their heads and threatened to burst their skulls like a balloon. The 4 forewent their haughty attitude in favor of rolling on the ground and holding their heads. all while their eyes threatened to explode from how bloodshot they were. Fan sauntered over and sneered. Then explained the deal with the bloodworms. This seemed to get through to them, that they were at the mercy of a kid. If you want to live, listen closely. Of course we will, so stop it already. My head's about to pop. Yeah, you're our boss now. Screw that rotten, old, violent demon. You bastard. No sense of loyalty. Haven't we got the same mother? Daddy, please get rid of these treacherous bastards. I'm more than enough to look after you. They are not worth shit. Fan's face twitched, and Li Jingtian's mood sank. These little shits have no shame at all. They were the most immoral Radiant Stage expert the two ever saw. Fan was still having second thoughts if taking this immoral four under him would only come back to haunt him. Even calling me the damn daddy. Sigh. God, I hope this won't come back to bite me. Fan lamented inside, and his hand sign changed, relieving the four of their pain. The four demons went on their knees on the spot and hugged Fan's legs. Daddy, I'm yours forever and always. Oh, please don't let that bug give your child a tummy ache. Fan's brows were shuddering and kicked the fool. Not one damn bone in your back. What? Daddy wants to see us show off our backbone? With a shine in their eyes, the four joined together in their retarded pose and shouted, We are the demonic heroes, the abominable four. Our daddy is, Daddy, what was your name again? Fan felt like spitting blood. Li Jingtian was laughing his heart out. Who'd ever believe these four weirdos, the four scheming demons, who had him on the ropes before now, had no morals whatsoever? Fan glared at the four. You are forbidden from calling me that, or I'll have the worms wreck your body so bad you'd be begging for the sweet release of death. Yes, Mommy. The four imps puffed their chests, totally guessing Fan's meaning. Fan reeled, almost collapsing. He glared at them. That's goddamn worse. You're even changing my gender. Call me Steward Joie. Fan emphasized each word as he spat through gnashed teeth. The four stood at attention and shouted, Yes, Steward Joie. Fan finally breathed easier. No wonder they're called the abominable four scheming demons. It's like fighting with the demons of the underworld. He finally figured out why demon scheming sect ignored these dunces for 60 years. Spending but a moment around these fools would cut one's life short from anger, though they had one redeeming quality. They were strong. With the Luo clan on the rise, it needed strong experts. Once the clan situation stabilized, the first ones I'll put down for good will be these four weirdos. Fan said, You are now one of us now, so explain to me this unity tactic. Violent demon looked at his brothers and spoke with difficulty. It is a secret art of demon scheming sect. We can't reveal it. Fan nodded. That's how a human should act. At least they aren't complete wastes, knowing when to be loyal. Even if the demon scheming sect threw them away for 60 years, they were still protecting their secrets. But what he heard next filled Fan with a sudden and most compelling urge to choke the life out of them. The thing is, only we four can train it. It's our secret. If we let it slip, we'll easily be defeated in the future. That's too dangerous. How about we tell you of demon scheming sects guarding array instead, or where they keep their scriptures, or where sect leader's room is perhaps. Fan waved him off, clenching his fists hard. One could even hear the grinding of teeth. You sure like spilling the beans on everything about the demon scheming sect. Fan laughed from anger, already regretting his decision. The day might come where you'd even sell me out. The four looked at each other, but remained silent. Then they each looked elsewhere and started whistling. This only worked to fuel Fan's rage as he barked, Hurry up and fork out that unity tactic, or I'll end you right here, right now. The four nodded in panic. That was fine, since their lives were in Fan's hands. Not even the unity tactic could save them from this. So they started to string up all the details pertaining to the secret art. Li Jingtian listened from the side, now understanding what made the four's attacks so strange and hard to counter. The unity tactic only worked when four people were intrinsically connected on the biological and spiritual level. This unity tactic was called Four Hearts Formation, pointing at the four human emotions: happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. Violent demon trained anger to the point of being berserk. Once he struck, nothing could stand up to him. Scrooge Demon trained sorrow to the point of grudge. He shifted from real to illusory, throwing the enemy off guard. He was swift like a ghost and impossible to throw off, giving his opponent a very hard time. Slide Demon trained happiness to the point of ecstasy. Swift like the wind, leaving behind only afterimages. Wimp Demon trained joy to the point of being whimsical. And since he was also cowardly by nature, he reached the peak of defensive arts. In short, the eldest brother was in charge of power, third bro in charge of speed, second bro and fourth bro in charge of movement arts. But even they were different, with second bro in charge of attacking movements while fourth bro with defensive ones. If any four people train like this, they'd end up as waste, with only the eldest bro having enough power to do some damage. The other three couldn't do anything to their enemy. Yet, in this lay the crux of the Four Hearts formation. It allowed the four to combine their advantages and become one, effectively multiplying their power. This was why the four charged all together at Li Jingtian and gave him a hard time. The four of them turned in the eldest brother, Violent Demon. Then the four surrounded Li Jingtian, but turned in a third brother, Slide Demon. And why Li Jingtian could never harm Slide Demon, once despite having him in his grip, was all thanks to Wimp Demon's ability. Li Jingtian then ended up half-naked because Scrooge Demon bestowed his ability on his brothers this way. One man's ability was transferred to the four. And since they were of four, their power would multiply. The enemy would be left flabbergasted, unable to cope with the situation before meeting his ultimate demise. But if this secret was leaked, there was no more reason to fear them. As long as they stopped the four's change into Violent Demon, they'd be finished, because the other three's power came nowhere near the first. So this strange formation had me on the ropes. Li Jingtian caressed his bead, but it does have a weakness. The four of you can't use all of your abilities at the same time. Otherwise, it would truly be insane. Really? Then I'll help them reach that point. With a sly grin, Zhua Fan showed a jade slip. Abominable four scheming demons, since you are now with me, I will make it worth your while. This is also a unity tactic for division formation. The users would move to the four cardinal points, with the five elements endearing one another, making each one of you use all the other's abilities. Furthermore, it will also work to boost your personal ability by 3 layers. What? The four demons cried out, and Li Jingtian smacked his lips. It's insane enough they can use all the others' abilities, but it can even increase their power by 3 layers? Ain't that the same as facing the 4 scheming demons at the 6th layer of Radiant Stage? Zhua Fan smiled, correct. With the 4 divisions amplifying each other, everyone can use anyone's ability. They will have speed, power, movements, defense, thus becoming true monsters. Not to mention, it complements the 4 hearts formation. As for raising them 3 layers, that's only in the beginning stage of the 4 division formation. Once they reach the mid stage, the amplification would raise their power by 6 layers, and if trained to peak, by a whole stage. In other words, the 4 of them will become as strong as a peak Radiant Stage expert. Li Jingtian was slack-jawed, watching Zhua Fan incredulous. Steward Zhua, are you perhaps someone who fled a super sect or something? The 4 division formation is insanely more outrageous than the 4 hearts formation. Where the hell did you come up with this treasure? Secret. Zhua Fan smiled mysteriously. Chapter 228, Mystery Kid. Chapter 228, Mystery Kid. The 4 scheming demons were now thrilled, holding a much stronger unity tactic than the one they used before. But then Scrooge Demon suddenly said, Steward Zhua, if it's of no trouble, could you perhaps, maybe pay us back for the bone staff? No worries. Zhua Fan nodded. Scrooge Demon is a miser after all. He just got a better unity tactic for free, yet still wants compensation for the 5th grade spiritual weapon. But since they were his men now, Zhua Fan would naturally listen to their requests. Zhua Fan sent Li Jingtian after the pieces of the black staff. He then added some diamond sand, and in the azure flame, the staff was instantly restored, even improved upon. The 4 scheming demons were jumping in joy for having their spiritual weapon back. Perhaps the excitement got to his head, or he was just plain petty. But Scrooge Demon pointed at Li Jingtian without an ounce of shame. "Steward Zhua, could you also give me that old guy's ring and clothes?" "What for?" Zhua Fan asked, chuckling. Scrooge Demon spoke as a matter of factly. "We just lost them because we went unconscious. How else could that old guy take them from me? Blast it, they were mine to begin with, you hear?" Li Jingtian flew into a rage. "You little shit. What kind of logic is that? They are yours once they exchange hands?" Zhua Fan's face sank. "Your twisted characters won't change, but you are never to use them on my men. Or else, I know, Steward Zhua, I will think better of him from now on." Noticing Zhua Fan's displeasure, and in fear of having the bug in his stomach go topsy-turvy, Violent Demon shouted in plea for mercy. "Hey, please excuse him. If he doesn't get to steal what he fancies, he'll sulk for a few days." Zhua Fan's cheek twitched. "That just means he's really stingy. From now on, do not touch what isn't yours." Violent Demon saw Scrooge Demon's eyes still fixed on Li Jingtian, shouting and turning his head forcefully. But that stubborn face had the duo not know how to respond to it. Among these four weirdos, Scrooge Demon is the worst. "I'll have to enforce extra security to stop this damn kleptomaniac." Clap. Zhua Fan got their attention, but Scrooge Demon was still very depressed. Zhua Fan ignored him. "Listen well. We are now going to Thunderswarm Mountain, so you will be leading us since you know the way." But the four shook their heads hesitantly. "We can't." Zhua Fan frowned. "Why?" "Steward Zhua, did you forget? We promised the child to get him an ingredient. The four scheming demons are demonic heroes of indomitable spirit. How can we disappoint him?" Zhua Fan eyes them deeply and nodded. If it were others, he'd be forcing them along. But these four weirdos were hardly honorable. If he left the four the impression he was about to force them out of their promise, without setting a precedent, wouldn't teaching them later be impossible? Pausing, Zhua Fan said, "Fine, we will first find the kid, give him the ingredient, then go to Thunderswarm Mountain." "Steward Zhua, you really have it?" The four eyes shined. Zhua Fan nodded. "Of course." The four started whispering among each other and let out a strange laughter. Violent Demon even raised his head smug. "You see? I told you flying people had the ingredient on them, and I was right in attacking them. Eldest bro is brilliant. Hi, hi, hi." The other three gave thumbs up. Zhua Fan felt unwell for some reason. Their behavior raised many flags. But then again, this was their usual manner, so he let it slide, and so Zhua Fan and Li Jingtian followed the four demons westward, reaching a tall mountain half a day later in the sunset's glow. An 8-year-old kid sat on a meter-tall rock. He put something in his mouth from time to time and chewed. As if noticing the newcomers, the kid's ears moved and turned his head, revealing his sparkling eyes, but Zhua Fan's heart shuddered at the sight, as if a savage beast had set its gaze on him. His feeling that something was off only grew stronger. What's going on here? Why is a child, not even a decade old, making me feel such danger? Li Jingtian's eyes widened and said, "Steward Zhua, the child is in the second layer of Radiant Stage." "What?" Crying out, Zhua Fan was incredulous. How was a kid such an expert? Another pygmy? But taking a closer look, he had quite the delicate features. If an old freak would have used his cultivation to keep his youth, it was still impossible to take the same appearance as this child. That left him with only one possibility. The child reached the Radiant Stage from a young age. Zhua Fan and Li Jingtian exchanged a glance of shock, then also turned a vigilant eye to the four demons. These little shits only said they lost a bet with a kid, but not once mentioned he was a Radiant Stage expert. Was it on purpose? Why? Zhua Fan squinted and his fists tightened. The kid didn't get up, still sitting on the rock as he spoke. "You four are finally back. If you'd have been any later, I'd assume you ran away and make me go after you." The four shook like a leaf, quite afraid of him. Not only Wimp Demon, but even Sly Demon and Scrooge Demon. They all ducked behind Violent Demon, whose legs were quivering. "We would never do that. We ran twice already and don't dare do it again." Zhua Fan and Li Jingtian were in shock. How were the great four demons holding a kid in such fear? Was this second layer of radiant stage expert stronger than them, who were a layer higher, and using Unity tactic? The 3 days are almost up. Did you bring the ingredient? The kid turned a blind eye to Juefan, an elderly, and spoke coldly to the demons. Like the judge about to hand over his sentence, the four shivered and gnawed and pointed at Juefan. They have it. Just search them. Juefan's face sank. He knew he just got sold out and was now looking into the kid's cold eyes. Take it out. The youth extended his hand to Juefan, sensed no ill will from him, and approached him. He noticed that the kid was holding a fourth-grade ingredient, purple root. The kid bit out of the purple root from time to time as he approached. Chewing it like a snack, Juefan's heart was in shock. He's eating an alchemy ingredient before it's even refined. Even a radiant stage expert would have his meridians explode doing such a ridiculous thing. Yet the kid was just peachy, as if he could refine the ingredient naturally. Monster. It was Juefan's first time using this word on others, having gotten used to others usually using it on him. The kid then spoke before Juefan even took out the ingredient. Do you have any 5th grade or higher ingredients? The taste of these 4th grade ones is so flat. I'm tired of having this thing. Juefan's mouth twitched. Picky brat. His hand flashed and revealed a snow-white mountain ginseng. This is a 5th grade ingredient, a 10,000 years old snow ginseng. It should fit your tastes. The kid's eyes lit up and snatched it pleased. It's been so long since I've tasted such a good ingredient. Curse those damn bastards in yellow. They only feed me slops. I almost died of hunger. Yellow. Raising an eyebrow, Juefan sank in thought. Who was he talking about? The only ones among the 7 houses are Regent Estate who wear yellow. But his thought didn't get far as the kid took a bite of the ginseng, then showed an exasperatingly pleased expression. You 4 earned 3 more days of living. Go and search again. If you can't find anything, your heads will fall. The 4 demons were ecstatic and prostrated. Hold on. Juefan waved them off. Why do I feel you enslaved them? Wasn't it a bet, and losing it made them search for an ingredient? Frowning, the kid was growing angry. Bet? I loathe gambling. The one time I ever bet, I lost. It forced me to eat wretched ingredients every day. From then on, I vowed never to bet again. Then, Juefan wondered, why were the 4 demons helping him with ingredients? The kid spoke matter-of-factly. I caught these 4 pillaging their 4th city and was about to get rid of them. But they were willing to go around searching for ingredients in my stead, so I'll let them go for now. Besides, I am missing a few hands and can understand the saying, many hands make light work. I'd feel ashamed taking their lives after eating their ingredients. But since their crimes are too serious, they're to give me an ingredient every 3 days. They will keep doing this for as long as my trip outside lasts. This is also a means for them to atone. Juefan was startled. Why does it feel this kid is no less the weirdo the other 4 are? What does giving you ingredients have to do with their pillaging crimes? When he heard the kid spoke of stopping the 4 demons pillaging, he thought he was a typical righteous cultivator, helping the poor and all that. When in fact, the kid was the same as these 4 from the start, enslaving others to do his bidding. Just that he used it under the guise of punishing evil shit for vile people and a hypocrite. None of them are any good. Then again, it doesn't seem I'm made of better cloth either. Juefan scratched his nose. How about we make a deal? The 4 are now under me, so I will give you 10 5th grade ingredients to let them leave with me. What do you say? 10. The kid's eyes lit up and drooled. But then he paused, revealing a sly grin. Since you have so many ingredients, you're not going anywhere. You'll stay right here and search for ingredients just as well. Eyes twitching, Juefan's face sank. Why, you greedy little piece of... Chapter 229, Tianyu's Strongest, Invincible Scamp. Chapter 229, Tianyu's Strongest, Invincible Scamp. Taking slow steps back, Juefan's cold eyes stared at the kid. Little brother, I won't take you for an ignorant child since you're a radiant stage expert. Are you going to force me into servitude? Pillagers belong in prison, so it's only fitting they do some community service for a bit. But that was done by those 4. What's it got to do with me? Birds of a feather flock together. Since you're on the same side as them, then you're no better. A little punishment is only natural. Squinting, Juefan eyed that naive smile on the child and grew angry. You can't go back once you started things. I do not like hitting children, but if... want to hit me? Ha ha ha, good. But let me warn you, I have no wish to kill you, so I will give you all 10 chances to challenge me. If you can win just once, I'll let you all go. The kid hooked his finger and beamed Juefan walk back to Li Jingtian, but his eyes were more and more serious as he watched the kid. He may be in the second layer of Radiant Stage, but the kid was as calm as ever, even in the face of 4 people 1 layer stronger and another 4 layers stronger. He was confident in his victory and how the 4 scheming demons were so scared of him. His power couldn't be judged based on his low cultivation. Juefan whispered to the 4 demons. How is his power? Is he strong, weak? The 4 demons looked at each other, and Violent Demon said cautiously, he is very strong, but still not able to beat me. The fact is, this kid is very sharp, picking the weakness of our 4 hearts formation with 1 look. How else could he defeat us? Juefan nodded. I see. How else could the 4 enter servitude, if not having their unity tactic crushed? But to be sure, Juefan gave Li Jingtian a signal. Elderly, you have to go all out on the kid. Well, nothing back. You have to kill him, and with how odd this kid is, the 4 demons' words can't be trusted either. We can't afford to lose because of them. Li Jingtian nodded. Bloodthirst setting into his gaze, he suddenly roared and released billowing black energy. His immense power made the sky and earth tremble alike. The 4 scheming demons were able to confuse Li Jingtian thanks to their 4 hearts formation, stopping him from releasing his full might. They now realized how terrifying Li Jingtian was. If Li Jingtian had gone all out from the start, Violent Demon would have been long dead, in 1 move even. This would ultimately prevent the 4 brothers from using 4 hearts formation. The 4 united could break steel, while scattered were like grass. But the kid was still sitting on that rock with arms crossed and unafraid. Not 1 change in his expression was seen. This made Juefan frown. Is he faking it or truly belittling Li Jingtian? If it were the latter, the kid's power had to be huge, Wraith style. First move, soaring demonic dragon. Roar. With a dragon roar, Li Jingtian shot at the kid, surrounded by a black dragon image bearing its fangs and claws, ready to rip him to pieces. Explosions were heard with every step he took, even from the air. It seemed as if the space couldn't hold his power. The rocks around him were pulverized as well. So strong. Even Juefan admired Li Jingtian. This martial fanatic was a true fit for Wraith art. Its power was displayed fully in the hands of this man, showing shocking phenomenons, but the bad feeling never left Juefan. The kid was just too calm, not putting Li Jingtian in his eyes. What's going on? Even a peak Radiant Stage would show some reaction. But the kid, yawning just as Li Jingtian got to him. The kid's reaction to this expert's incredible display of power was to extend a hand. A groan had everyone watch slack-jawed. Li Jingtian's mighty power was stopped as simple as that by a boy's hand. The black dragon image threw a fit behind Li Jingtian, wanting to break out of its shackles. But the kid had the dragon powerless under his thin arm. Even the world started taking different hues on one side. Li Jingtian's power was still going strong, causing a veritable storm to blow over, while on the other, there was only peace and serenity behind the boy. Even sunshine warmed the gentle nature. The black dragon's onslaught held no sway here. How is this possible? Juefan watched Agape. This may very well be the very first time someone thoroughly shocked him. Li Jingtian was sweating buckets, doing his damnedest in getting out of this child's hold. It was the same as a crazed bull meeting a 100-meter-tall cliff. Regardless of the raw power it had, it couldn't budge the cliff 1 inch. The kid grinned. First attempt. The kid grabbed Li Jingtian's arm and just threw him. Boom. A huge rock was blown to rubble. Juefan and the 4 demons were shocked and jumped in the air once the dust settled. The view made them gasp. The huge rock was flattened in an instant, and Li Jingtian struggled to crawl from beneath the rubble. He spat blood, and fear crept into his gaze. Only he who met the kid head-on knew the dread he instilled in front of the weird kid's eyes. He looked like a baby, easy to kill, as if lifting a finger. This was his first time ever Mad Dipper experienced such powerlessness. Fan and the others were watching bug-eyed in fear and shock. None saw it coming, that a pup had such insane amount of power. Not even the sacred domain Fan saw such freaks. Li Jingtian was in the 6th layer of Radiant Stage and a body cultivator genius, while using a profound ranked martial art. He had enough power to face a peak Radiant Stage expert. But today, before a mere boy in the 2nd layer of Radiant Stage, he was powerless. The kid didn't use any kind of martial art, only the power of his hand to topple and throw Li Jingtian. What kind of freaky power is this? Fan paled, watching the air with a blank mind. There, the kid happily sat in mid-air. With a mountain ruined, I'll be waiting for you on that peak. Don't forget, 3 days. Oh, and your 10 ingredients? Fan wiped his brow, shivering as he took the ingredients for the boy. The kid was delighted as he took them. You're not bad, kiddio. The more ingredients you find, the invincible scamp, Gu Santong, will reward you heavily. Then he vanished in a thin air. Fan bobbed his head on, and only after hitting his chest did the shivering stop. He sighed, God, that monster is insanely powerful. As Steward Zhua, who did he say he was? The wounded Li Jingtian swayed in his flight to Fan. His eyes were incredulous. Fan frowned. He seemed to have called himself Invincible Scamp, Gu Santong. What? You know I'm elderly. Holy Mother of God. No wonder I lost so miserably. Of all the rotten luck, why did I have to meet that devil? How could I be so blind? Li Jingtian slapped his head, regretting so much he was close to tears. Fan asked hurriedly, just who is this Gu Santong? Hi. For Steward Zhua to not know even the likes of invincible scamp Gu Santong. You must be dumber than a rock. A creepy snicker came from behind Fan. Fan's temple popped a vein. His mouth twitched and glared at the 4 demons. You knew who he was and what he was capable of, didn't you? Damn right we knew. We are demonic heroes, knowing all the experts in Tianyu. With how renowned this devil is, how couldn't we recognize him? You think everyone's a bonehead like you? Violent Demon snickered and laughed at the two's misfortune. Fan tightened his fists and cooled his anger. Then, did you make us come here on purpose and face that devil? Moreover, that bet was fake, right? Hi, of course. We are demonic heroes, never done a good thing in our lives. We were so angry when that devil suppressed us and had no way to vent. But got you to join in too, and seeing you suffer brings a tear of joy in my eyes. And have you ever seen a demonic cultivator holding one's end of a bet? You got served? The 4 scheming demons danced in joy and made a mockery out of Fan. Fan popped another vein, red from anger. Never thought the clever him, the cunning him, would be had by a bunch of schmucks. God damn it. Fan's finger moved and made a sign. The 4 were now sporting bloody marks on their forehead, wailing on the ground from pain and begging for mercy, but Fan held no pity for them. If I don't put these little shits in their place, they'll be the death of me. Li Jingtian watched the 4's pain in silence. They were total retards. They knew their lives were in the hands of another, yet still dared to fool him. They only had themselves to blame for this. Now that they were also caught in the middle with invincible scamp Gu Santong, he knew they were in deep trouble now. Li Jingtian frowned and sighed. Chapter 230, The Legend of a Monster. Chapter 230, The Legend of a Monster. Steward Zhua, we know our wrongs. Spare us. Sly Demon rolled on the ground begging. What Steward Zhua? It should be Daddy Zhua. Let us go. We won't do it again. Scrooge Demon was wailing in pain. What Daddy Zhua? It should be Granddaddy Zhua. Please. Violent Demon was even crying, but he didn't get to finish as he glared at Scrooge Demon. Then he punched his face. Damn it. You dare take advantage of me? Scrooge Demon held his purple eye, having no clue what happened. But Wimp Demon couldn't take the pain and said, Elder Bro. It was the second bro, calling him Daddy. Then you started calling him Granddaddy. Don't blame him. Widening his eyes, Violent Demon cuffed Wimp Demon. Bastard, silence is frickin' golden. Why do you hit me when it was all your fault? Scrooge Demon instantly understood, having heard Wimp Demon. He charged with a rage-filled fist. Wimp Demon was glum, and even though he didn't join the hustle and bustle, he circled behind eldest brother and whacked him with a fist whenever he had the chance. Third bro, Sly Demon, who wished for nothing more than to see the chaos blow out of proportions, held his head from the pain while cheering from the side. The four thus entered their routine squabble, making it all so lively Joafan's face twitched from all the ruckus, popping a third vein. He never met such hard-to-deal-with weirdos. They even had time to quarrel while being tortured by the bloodworm. It seems a bit of pain is not up to your standards. Then how about we kick things up a notch? Joafan made another sign. The four demons spurted blood and turned blood red all over as they scrambled from the pain. It was so excruciating they hadn't had the mind to quarrel anymore. Joafan panted, almost blowing his top at the four. When he calmed down, he said, "Elderly, is that Gu Santong? Why is he so dreadful?" Shaking his head, Li Jingtian sighed. "I am not clear either, but legends say Gu Santong is called Invincible Scamp. Undefeated throughout his life. 3 centuries ago, he caused a storm through Qianyu, throwing the empire on the brink of collapse. He later vanished into thin air, never hearing from him since. I never thought we'd meet him here. What, 300 years ago? How is he looking so young if he's so old?" Joafan was shocked. Li Jingtian was also puzzled. "I am not sure either. I only heard rumors about him. If he truly is the Invincible Scamp, then he is indeed 3 centuries old. Or perhaps he is Invincible Scamp's descendant, carrying his name. Hi. Invincible Scamp, Gu Santong has caused immense waves with his indomitable power at the time. How can someone else have his title? Moreover, you've seen his method. If he is not the real Invincible Scamp, how could you have ended up in such a sorry state?" Violent Demon shouted his mockery, while the other demons wailing at the side turned into a creepy combination with snickering in the mix. Li Jingtian caressed his beard and nodded. The 4 little shits' words were mostly senseless blabber, dumb as wood, but they spoke reason, sometimes. He didn't believe there was anyone outside this legendary Invincible Scamp that could bring him to such a sorry state. Joafan snapped a glance at the 4. "Elderly doesn't know about Gu Santong, but you do." "Damn right. This geezer may be old, but he knows shit, having been born way before the war 300 years ago." Violent Demon mocked. Joafan scowled. "You're not much older than Elderly, so how do you know then?" Steward Jua, there's something you're missing. When Gu Santong was causing havoc in the empire, he not only shamed the 7 houses, but the entire Tianyu Empire. This made his name taboo to the whole empire. Among the 7 houses, only house lords know of his endeavors, and that only passed through speech from the previous house lords. The elders hardly know a thing about him, and that is because of the shame he represented. Hi. Violent Demon's creepy laughter seemed to mock the 7 houses. Demon's scheming sect is different. Even before Tianyu was in uproar, our elders warned us to not get entangled with this monster. I can only blame our rotten luck to have stumbled on him just as we got out of that wretched place. Oh, woe is me. Having recalled the bitter experience, Violent Demon started crying along with his 3 demons, who were also wailing on top of things. Joafan had it. "Stop crying and tell the truth for once." "All right." The 4 demons' rivers of tears dried up on the spot. "We ask that Steward Jua spares us. Let us clear our thoughts." Joafan squinted and sighed, but still made a sign to stop their torture. They then resumed their creepy laughter and jumped in joy. Joafan saw they hadn't learned their lesson even a fraction, and he was fuming mad. "Explain it to me clearly, and I'll forego your previous transgression. Or else." His fingers moved, threatening them with more torture, and they panicked. "Steward, don't worry. We know when to be serious. We won't ever dare fool you again." Joafan nodded, satisfied. The 4 looked at each other, and Violent Demon was the first to start. "As far as we know, Invincible Scamp Gu Santong's life is an odd one. Simply unheard of." "What do you mean?" Joafan frowned. Violent Demon shook his head and said, "It's so damn baffling that even we don't know the full extent of this oddity." Zhuofan almost fell, and his eyes started spewing flames of rage as he cursed. Cut the crap. Carry on to egg me, and I'll give you a world of pain. Zhuofan was about to do just that when Sly Demon jumped in. Wait, Steward Zhua, eldest bro, is serious. Gu Santong is truly baffling that even we know little of him. He just sprung up out of nowhere. With the imperial family, the empire's 3 guardian sects, and the 7 houses' power, not even an ant could have caused such havoc, least of all a man. But isn't it bizarre how Gu Santong just popped up from thin air? Zhuofan's hand stopped in mid-sign. The 4 demons had some screws loose, most of the time, but Sly Demon was speaking some reason. It was baffling how an unknown, powerful devil just showed up like that, from the sacred domain perhaps. Zhuofan spoke. Go on. Violent Demon continued. The kid always had this appearance, that of an 8-year-old boy. But he was only in the 5th layer of profound heaven stage at the time. But after 300 years, he is still as young. Yet his cultivation increased to the 2nd layer of radiant stage, quite slow, I might add. What never changed all this time is him holding the title of Tianyu Strongest. Before, he was the strongest beneath the radiant stage, and now he is the strongest in the radiant stage. Oh, that baffling? Raising an eyebrow, Zhuofan's heart was filled with suspicions if this kid was an old monster. Did he perhaps use cultivation to keep such appearances? That may also explain why his cultivation went so slow, but who was dumb enough to keep himself as young as a child? They'd usually stop around 16. This way they could partake in some of the more pleasant aspects of life. This seemed to have made Zhuofan recall a veil-covered face and a demure figure. But Zhuofan shook his head at that thought. He was aiming to become an overlord on the demonic path. How could he ever let himself get bogged down by kinship? Perhaps the kid's thinking the same thing. So far, Zhuofan could understand him. Continue. He is really queer. He doesn't like anything except eating ingredients. If it was anyone else, he'd be already blown to bits by the potent ingredients. But he isn't scathed. Steward Zhua, I'm sure you can imagine by now which houses' ingredients are the most appealing when this freak ever ran out of them. Imperial family and the 7 houses? Zhuofan's eyes widened and suddenly showed a sly grin. Could it be? Hi. Steward Zhua sure is evil, thinking about plunging the world into chaos. Though it is the truth nonetheless. The kid went to Pill King Hall's fields and picked them clean of any and all herbs raging from 2nd to 7th grade. He even gobbled those 8th grade ones that took 1,000 years to grow. How could Pill King Hall sit still after that? So their elders chased after him. The kid didn't use any martial art, but his fists are insanely powerful. In just a single move, the elders were wiped out completely. I'm sure this old geezer here knows the taste of that fist the best. Violent Demon mocked. Li Jingtian nodded, breaking out in sweat just thinking about it. In their clash, Gu Santong didn't even punch, only threw him like nothing and already gave him a deep wound. If it were a punch instead, his life would have been forfeited. Such outstanding power. Taking a deep breath, Li Jingtian shuddered from the memory, and fear crawled in his heart. This never happened in all his long years as Mad Dipper. Zhuofan understood his state of mind and paled as well. He patted Elder Li's shoulder in comfort and spoke with seriousness. And then, hi. Then Pill King Hall requested assistance from Regent Estate, and they sent their elders on the kid's trail, only to suffer the same fate. All the while Gu Santong was rampant in robbing ingredients everywhere he went, even attacking the warehouses of the 7 houses and leaving them with nothing. Without a choice, the always squabbling 7 houses put aside their differences and worked together for the first time. They issued the worst and most cruel order since the Empire's existence, the Demon Purging Decree. Say what? Zhuofan's eyes widened in shock. He recalled how everyone spoke of this Demon Purging Decree as the most gruesome thing in existence. And the first use was on Gu Santong. But how is that kid still alive now? Just what kind of power does he have? How could he fight against an entire nation and only as a damn profound heaven expert? Chapter 231, The Third Divine Dragon. Chapter 231, The Third Divine Dragon. Once the demon purging decree was issued, every place Gu Santong had been was burned to the ground. It reached a point where every man, woman, and child shouted at him to die out of fear. He was treated like a public enemy. It didn't matter where he went, because the entire empire was against him. Isolated and despised, this mere child began to feel glum. Rumor has it that when the 7 houses venerables chased, the kid had no heart to fight and fled. The demon purging decree showed results in the end. At least it cut the little monster's fighting spirit. Zhuofan nodded. He was clear on that feeling, as demonic cultivators had often stumbled upon such a situation. Because they killed some righteous people for some reason, the others disregarded the truth and demanded their deaths. All because they were labeled demonic in such a helpless and isolated state, anyone would feel miserable. For this exact reason, his firm belief was that a demonic cultivator had to stand on his own. To cultivate a certain state of mind, even if alone, one needed to have the courage to face the whole world as such. The demonic emperor didn't establish a sect or a cult after his rise, becoming the loneliest of the 8 emperors. This was also the nature of demonic cultivators. Though when problems arose, there would have been no one to rely on. Gu Santong may be invincible, but he was still very much like a child. The isolation and hatred had an even greater effect, leaving him with a trauma. Sigh. The demon purging decree is psychological warfare. Zhuofan sighed and said to Violent Demon, "Then how did he remove his heart demon to become the current invincible scamp?" Hi. Steward was sure is smart. You caught on right away he didn't have that title before. Violent Demon laughed. Zhuofan grinned. Becoming isolated bores heavy on one's mind. In this state, even if powerful, it was still far from becoming invincible. Precisely. When the 7 houses venerables went after the kid, he was slowly reaching the end of his rope, on the brink of annihilation. But something happened then, and the kid changed completely. After only 3 months, when people thought he was on his deathbed and were searching for his corpse, he emerged. But if before he still had an innocent and childish manner, this time he was devil incarnate. His actions struck fear in not only the 7 houses, but the imperial family as well. His style was very much like ours from the demonic path. Hi. Oh, what did he do? Zhuofan grew excited and Li Jingtian eager, breaking out in laughter again. The light in Violent Demon's eyes danced. Do unto others as others have done unto you. Once he appeared again, he threatened to destroy the entire empire. Didn't you declare demon purging decree on me, burning any place I have been to isolate me? Fine then, I won't wait for you to destroy the cities. I'm just going to do it myself and save you the trouble. Every place I visit will be wiped out. While I leave this Tianyu, the empire will be an empty one. Hi. Steward Zhua, Old Li, could you even fathom the kid's baffling power? Every single punch and kick of his razed cities to the ground. This not only had the 7 houses scared, but the entire Tianyu was shaking in their boots. They had to be crying inside at the time, thinking what did it have to do with them. We're innocent. Ha. A bunch of morons if you ask me, the lot of them. The other 3 demons were also excited, wishing they had been there to stir trouble. Sly Demon even spoke over Violent Demon. Violent Demon glared, then kicked him. Damn you, Sly Demon, this is the best part. I'm telling the story. Sly Demon smirked and snorted inside, but made no comment. Zhuofan and Li Jingtian were speechless. Li Jingtian asked, I once heard of the kid's notoriety, but never knew he was so vicious. He wanted to destroy an empire by himself? But Zhuofan shook his head, clapping in admiration. His guts are commendable. I would have done the same thing in his stead. Humph! As for those who called themselves innocent, at the moment of the demon purging decree, there was no one who stood up to the 7 houses slaughter. In fact, they even pitched in. They were anything but innocent. And since they became enemies, mercy and regrets have no place here. Zhuofan snickered and nodded. The little imp is starting to grow on me. Li Jingtian looked long at Zhuofan and found his impression was not unlike his own in this cruel world. It was kill or be killed. Even innocent killings were the order of the day. And in the case of enemies, there was even less remorse. Stewardjoie is truly a man who will make countless sacrifices. Li Jingtian sighed inside, and then Zhuofan and Li Jingtian asked in unison, glaring at his three bros to curb their interruption. Violent Demon continued. Hey, what followed next was a prime example of how a true demonic cultivator should act. In but half a year, the kid fulfilled his promise, wiping out every place he went to until his onslaught had covered half the empire. Any and all who heard his coming sent the people fleeing for their lives. The seven houses venerable joined hands to surround him, to no avail. The kid still went on killing regardless of opposition. He then started to be referred as the all-ravaging child, to show that everywhere he went, he left ravaged lands behind him. The imperial family could no longer take it, seeing the seven houses in disarray. If it didn't intervene now, the empire would be done for. So it sent its 50 divine dragons. Violent Demon started sputtering as he spoke from the excitement, as if he was the one laying Tianyu to ruin instead. Zhuofan waved him off. Hold on, how many divine dragons was that again? Violent Demon raised 5 fingers. 50 what? SSS. Gasping, Zhuofan was shocked. There were 50 divine dragons then? You mean to say 50 Jade Flute Divine Sword Feng Qiubai at peak radiant stage? Stewardjoie, you've got it all wrong. The aptitudes of divine dragons at the time weren't as high as the current ones. How could there be 50 Jade Flute Divine Sword? Zhuofan nodded and sighed. 50 Jade Flute Divine Sword was a dreaded sight. More to the point, it would be even more damn frightening if the kid escaped from them as well before he even had the chance to calm his thoughts. Violent Demon continued. The imperial family was still going strong at the time, having around 20 experts like Jade Flute Divine Sword. And the other 30 were at least in the 5th layer of Radiant Stage. 3 among them were even called immemorial sages by the world, stronger than even Jade Flute Divine Sword. Even Invincible Scamp had a hard time dealing with them. What? Zhuofan cried and looked at Li Jingtian. They too were incredulous the imperial family ever held so much power, easily guessing their thoughts. The 4 scheming demons started their creepy jeer. Hi, how ignorant you are. You think Tianyu's imperial family and the 7 houses of now only have this little power after 1,000 years? Just 3 centuries ago, the imperial family had 50 divine dragons, the regent estate, 100 radiant stage experts, and the other houses in the tens. This is what kept the houses in a delicate balance. But in the war with Gu Santong, the 7 houses' united force of hundreds of radiant stage experts were almost wiped out. Even the imperial family's 50 divine dragons were destroyed, leaving but only the 3 immemorial sages alive. This battle waged for a whole year in a devastating fashion. 2 of the sages ultimately succumbed in this war of attrition, leaving behind the strongest immemorial sage to contend with the little monster. But at this time, both of them were nearing their limits, with the end looking to be drawn in mutual destruction. Zhuofan and Li Jingtian were wide-eyed. Thank God Invincible Scamp wrecked Tianyu 300 years ago, or the Luo clan would have never got to rise above the 7 houses, not even in 100 years, not to mention 10. Zhuofan wiped his brow, cheering inside. By the way, how did their fight end? With the kid still alive, did the last sage die? If that is so, why then the kid hid himself for the past centuries? Nodding, Violent Demon smiled. Precisely. The last sage was very smart. He knew if both died, the imperial family would be left stranded, and the 7 houses ultimately dividing Tianyu. So at the very end, he read the kid's nature and resorted to shamelessly dupe him into a 1,000-year agreement. He stated that if he stood his ground after receiving the kid's 10 punches, the kid would replace him in becoming the imperial family's divine dragon and safeguarding the imperial family for 1,000 years. If he died, then Gu Santong could do with Tianyu as he pleased, with no one stopping him. Hi, Stewardjoie. Don't you think this is the most ridiculous joke you've ever heard? If the sage died, with all other divine dragons laying dead as well, who on earth remained to stop the little monster? This was the most obvious trap if I ever saw one, but the kid was duped just as easily, or perhaps overconfident in his strength. Once the 10 punches were struck, The sage was peach perfect, and Invincible Scamp had the rotten luck of being in the imperial family's indentured servant ever since. Hi, what a moron. If it were me, I'd disregard the bet, even after the punches, ha ha. I'm tens of times wiser than that brat. A genius, I tell ya. The other demons egged him on with thumbs up, and Violent Demon's laughter only grew more rampant, but Zhuofan and Li Jingtian were shocked speechless. Never in their wildest dreams had they conceived that Gu Santong was the imperial family's third divine dragon. Chapter 232, A Stubborn Heart. Chapter 232, A Stubborn Heart. The 5 divine dragons of the imperial family, the strongest in Tianyu, and yet, the highly placed members of the 7 houses had limited knowledge about them, limited to Jade Flute Divine Sword Feng Xiubai and Monochrome Chess Sage Sima Hui. The House Lords were the only ones entitled to the matters pertaining 3 centuries ago, that the invincible scamp Gu, the devil who pushed Tianyu on the brink of collapse, was now a divine dragon, but this resolution only brought more problems than solved. Zhuofan squinted at the 4 demons. Since the imperial family is rearing this behemoth, what is it doing getting scared of the 7 houses? Steward Zhua, you clearly know nothing. That last immemorial sage was the strongest in Tianyu, on the brink of breaking out of the radiant stage of shackles and reaching the void consciousness and becoming undying. A pity he met Gu Santong, that little monster. Regardless of how strong he was, he couldn't stand the kid's 10 punches. But even so, thanks to his consciousness on the brink of becoming void, he endured the kid's onslaught for a full hour before having his soul scattered. Gu Santong admired his dedication, who was willing to stake his soul in winning the bet. This was how the man protected Tianyu's imperial family and forced the kid to stick to his promise. But Gu Santong was no fool either. He resigned to only protecting the imperial family and nothing more. Thus, he was the imperial family's strongest shield, but not their spear, ignoring any orders. Even so, the imperial family still won. Would anyone dare disobey them when they had him on their side? Of course, his existence was never accepted by the 7 houses. If he went berserk again, what would become of the 7 houses? So, they went to the emperor again and again for a resolution, or they would be leaving the empire. For lack of a better choice, the imperial family could only ask for the kid to make a vow as a divine dragon to not attack the 7 houses unless provoked. Also, the imperial family will have him under strict supervision. He is not to step 1 foot outside the imperial capital without the emperor's explicit approval. With how Tianyu lost its backbone in that war, if the 7 houses withdrew, the empire was open to foreign invasions. And the kid had no choice but to agree to this and protect the imperial family through the oath. The 7 houses begrudgingly compromised as well, and the imperial family changed his title into Invincible Scamp, as if to mean all that happened was just a kid throwing tantrum. But now, the Invincible Scamp who's been locked away for 3 centuries by the imperial family was set free by the emperor. Violent Demon and the 3 demons wore their brows in a frown. Zhuofan and Li Jingtian nodded and sighed. Gu Santong was indeed savage, but also honorable. Far more than these little shits. Zhuofan squinted at the 4 and snickered. Is that all? Pretty much. Now then, Steward Zhua, you have the boundless honor of listening to the legends of the much greater, much more heroic 4 demons than even the likes of Invincible Scamp Gu Santong. Correct, those 4 are without a doubt yours truly, the demonic heroes for scheming. Not interested. With a sneer and a sign, the 4 demons started wailing in torment as they tousled the ground. Among the screams of pain, they voiced their doubts. Steward Zhua, what did we do this time? Is this how you repay us? Nothing bad. In fact, you did exemplary work. I'm only dishing out premeditated punishment. Zhuofan snickered and cackled. The 4's hearts were in grief as they shouted, Steward Zhua, you're breaking your promise. You said you'll forget about everything if we told you about Gu Santong. TCHHH, Zhuofan mocked. We're all demon cultivators here, right? Since when can you believe anything we say? You're morons to have trusted me in the first place. Li Jingtian almost burst out laughing. It was the four little shits who duped Zhuo Fan in the first place, and now he was paying them back in spades. Steward Zhuo isn't one to take a loss, regardless how small. The four scheming demons were on the verge of tears. Zhuo Fan returned their mocking words right back at them, leaving them speechless. Being tricked made them feel anger, sorrow, pain, the works. My head hurts, my face hurts, my whole body hurts. They could only resort to begging now. But Zhuo Fan turned a deaf ear to their pleading, speaking to Li Jingtian with a smile. Elderly, do you know what I'm thinking? He, Steward Zhuo wants Gu Santong. Li Jingtian's eyes lit up, nodding. Zhuo Fan's eyes shined with exceptional greed. I've never wanted a subordinate as much as I want him. But if the imperial family finds out you've stolen their cornerstone from under their feet. Li Jingtian was worried, grinning. Zhuo Fan mocked. With Gu Santong in the bag, what good will it do to them if they know? They couldn't handle his power 3 centuries ago, but can they now? Li Jingtian laughed. Zhuo Fan launched into the air, flying for Gu Santong's mountain. Elderly, look after them. I'm going to probe the devil. I'm going to confirm some suspicions of mine. Steward Zhuo, don't worry. Leave this to me, ha ha ha. Cupping his hands, Li Jingtian turned to 4, their wailing music to his ears. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan landed on the peak. He saw Gu Santong sitting on the edge of a cliff with his dainty feet dangling and enjoying the sunset. Seeing him approach, the kid's eyes lit up. Oh, you're back so fast. Did you already get an ingredient? Ha ha ha, yep. Zhuo Fan nodded. Gu Santong was caught by surprise and cheered as he jumped to Zhuo Fan. How are you so fast? Take it out and let me see. Zhuo Fan's hand shined and revealed a purple leaf. Another 5th grade ingredient. Gu Santong was overjoyed, eager to dig in since the smell was intoxicating. Without preamble, he bit into it as he praised Zhuo Fan. You're not bad at all. Far better than the others. Those 4 couldn't get one in 3 days, but you found one in an instant. Ha ha ha, you did well. I won't forget it. Oh, and how will you repay me? Zhuo Fan smiled. Gu Santong hesitated, his eyes darting all over before holding out 2 fingers in all seriousness. I'll give you 2 more attempts. You just have to defeat me once, and I'll let you all go. With the old guy using 1, you are left with 11. Ha ha ha. So this is your reward. Zhuo Fan chuckled and shook his head as he cursed the brat his head. This punk was corrupted by the strongest immemorial sage, all right, giving fake rewards. Blast it. If I could beat you, what need do I have of you to let me go? We'd be leaving anyway. But since we can't, more attempts only means getting beaten by you even more. Are you taking us for fools? You'll get yours. Oh, don't you worry. In a jiffy, I will put your cheeky ass in place. I'll show you how it's really done. Zhuo Fan snickered. Then I'll be going to get more and more attempts. Go, go. Work hard now. Gu Santong waved him off, as if Zhuo Fan was nothing to him but a precious ingredient dispenser. Zhuo Fan left with a smile and returned 15 minutes later to Li Jingtian. The 4 scheming demons rushed to beg for mercy, but Zhuo Fan didn't even spare them a glance. Elderly, the kid's only redeeming feature is his brawn. Easy to handle. What do you mean? Li Jingtian's asked. Eager Zhuo Fan showed 2 items. One was the bloodworm gourd, the other a glowing ingredient more precious than a mere 5th grade. Zhuo Fan took a bloodworm from the gourd and placed it on the ingredient. The worm then disappeared deep inside it. Li Jingtian still didn't understand, but Zhuo Fan explained, in your fight with the kid, I noticed how he never used discerning field despite being in the radiant stage. So I tested him again with a 5th grade ingredient. Seeing him gobble it up like candy, we'll give him this bloodworm spiked ingredient, and then the 2 shared a look and sank into a choreographed evil snicker in the middle of the 4's cries. Wimp Demon was about to say something, but Violent Demon's glare cut him short. The other 2 demons, along with Violent Demon, snickered. But their mockery of the pair didn't sound much different from their wails, making it fall under Zhuo Fan and Li Jingtian's radar. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan went to Gu Santong again. Gu Santong was suspicious now. How are you so fast? Did you get another one? Yeah. Zhuo Fan nodded. Gu Santong was overjoyed. You're the very definition of an expert, not like those 4 snails. Give it here, and I'll give you 10 attempts. Ah, how much obliged. Smirking, Juefan presented the ingredient, and Gu Santong cried in joy. It's a sixth-grade ingredient. You're incredible. Juefan only smiled, but he mocked him inside. To make you take the bait and drop your guard, I'm even giving you a sixth-grade ingredient. Curses, I didn't even get that many off of Drifting Flowers edifice. But it's fine. Using it in exchange for such a powerful expert is bloody worth it. His eyes shining, Juefan licked his lips, staring closely at Gu Santong. As long as the brat ate it, then he would have the strongest Intianyu at his fingertips. Even Juefan couldn't control his excitement as his heart hammered his chest, but Gu Santong didn't eat it and frowned. There's something off about this ingredient. Bam! Juefan's heart hit rock bottom, watching on nervously. Did the brat find out? Chapter 233, Complete Loss. Chapter 233, Complete Loss. How can a genuine sixth-grade ingredient have problems? Juefan scratched his nose as worry crept in his heart. Scrunching his nose, Gu Santong frowned and split the ingredient in two with his fingers. A red worm was seen wiggling further into the ingredient, but Gu Santong picked it up. What is this? Gu Santong set his eyes on Juefan. Juefan was shocked inside, but didn't show it. If the kid found out, he'd be pulverized with a flick alone. Juefan knew he couldn't admit it even in death. He had to play innocent. Strange. How did a worm get inside an ingredient? Yeah, ingredients are worldly treasure. So how could this grand sixth-grade ingredient caught a worm? Gu Santong stared Juefan down, but could only shake his head in the end, having not detected any abnormalities. He killed the bug and ate the ingredient. Whatever. Anything is possible in this world. But be more careful next time you go pick ingredients. Juefan nodded and hightailed it out of there with a soaked back. How did this kid, without a discerning field, find out about the bloodworm? Luckily, the kid didn't doubt him, or he'd be a goner. Recalling Li Jingtian's heavy wounds after a mere throw, Juefan swallowed dryly as he flew away, yet Gu Santong still sat there on the cliff, chewing ingredients with a frown. How is it that an ingredient caught a worm? Whoosh! Juefan returned like lightning to Li Jingtian. The latter was eager to know the result. Steward Jue, how is it? Can't you tell from my face? Juefan spoke glumly. Li Jingtian knew Juefan was depressed. You mean the kid used the discerning feel for the first time? As if. Juefan shook his head and sighed, his brow in a constant frown. And this is what worries me. Without using his soul to investigate, how the hell did he find the hidden worm? If I can't understand this, any future attempts will be pointless. Li Jingtian sank in thought as well. The four demons suddenly stopped yelling as they tried muffling their laughter. But the pain got too much and soon resumed their tenor symphony. Juefan couldn't care less. However, Steward Jue, should we try with eggs? Li Jingtian proposed. We may not know what trick he used, but not even discerning feel can find the eggs. I refuse to believe he is any different. Juefan slapped his thigh. We'll do it like you said, elderly, but this time it will cost me heavily. Gnashing his teeth, Juefan's hand revealed a 3-foot-long red and white root. Li Jingtian shouted in shock. Seventh-grade ingredient. Yin Yang Moon Fire Root. Correct. This ingredient is hot on the outside, but cold inside. This is one of the few ingredients with yin and yang in harmony. Because of its rarity, it is even valued higher than an 8th-grade ingredient. Stammering, Juefan caressed the red-hot root, yet ice-cold whiskers with a bleeding heart. I got it when I was in Drifting Flowers edifice and couldn't bear the thought of using it in the competition. Yet, I am now using it to house some worm eggs. When the kid takes it, it's the same as eating a spring pill, quickening the growth of the worm. Seeing him so reluctant, Li Jingtian patted his shoulder. Stewardry, you know what they say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Think about it, a 7th-grade ingredient in exchange for the invincible scamp. No matter how you see it, it's totally worth it. I'm sure you can see it with your cunning mind. Juefan's gaze hardened and nodded. Yes, this is not just a mere exchange, but a great deal. Juefan let a bloodworm into the ingredient. Then soon after put it back in the gourd. Now the ingredient was filled with bloodworm eggs. Taking a deep breath, he looked at the ingredient with hope and smiled. Everything rests on you now. Good luck, Steward Joie. Li Jingtian cupped his hand. Joie Fan nodded and flew to Gu Santong. He was there in a flash, startled. Gu Santong turned to Joie Fan. You're damn quick, you know that? Those 4 fools have nothing on you. What did you find this time? Take it out. But he couldn't finish as the sight of the ingredient in Joie Fan's hands had him wide-eyed. 7th grade ingredient. You actually found a 7th grade ingredient? Just lucky, I guess. Joie Fan nodded. Gu Santong took it and drooled. He was moved to tears. A 7th grade ingredient? Oh, I haven't had one in 3 centuries. Those bastards in yellow only know how to starve me with wretched 1st and 2nd grade ingredients. It took me 300 years to reach the 2nd layer of Radiant Stage. Gu Santong lamented his grief, while Joie Fan nodded inwardly. Now he knew who he was talking about. They were the Imperial Capital's guards. He found another big secret as well. His cultivation didn't rely on training, or maybe training did very little. Only eating ingredients increased his strength. Curses, if I take him in, I'll go broke before I get to raise him. On second thought, I might not need to feed him anyway, since he is already invincible. Yeah, no problem. Then, it suddenly occurred to him, the Imperial family definitely has high-grade ingredients. Yet, over the last centuries, they've only been feeding him 1st and 2nd grade. Was it done on purpose to hold this monster's growth in check? So the more power he has, the harder it is for the Imperial family to control him. Squinting, Joie Fan realized Gu Santong was unlike the rumors painted him as the strongest in the Empire. At least the Imperial family seemed to have a way to keep him in check. Otherwise, there was no reason to stunt his cultivation. For so many years, Joie Fan took a deep breath. As of yet, he was unsure if this conjecture was real or not, but he couldn't ignore it either, or he'd be suffering at the hands of the Imperial family sometime in the future. The Imperial family still had uses for them, and they were relying on the Imperial family. But who was to say when all of this could just go belly up? In short, there are no everlasting friends. Anyone can become an enemy. Joie Fan's eyes flashed coldly. Gu Santong suddenly frowned and cried out. He looked at the ingredient and shook his head. This one is also fishy. Why are all the ingredients you find so queer? His heart drumming his chest, Joie Fan swallowed dryly. What could possibly be wrong? Gu Santong snapped the ingredient in 2 and pointed. See that? Joie Fan saw the core of the ingredient in shock. Gu Santong broke it right where the bloodworm laid its eggs. The middle of this 7th grade ingredient was white as the moon and released a deep chill. But in this whiteness, there were some grayish dots. Bloodworms, eggs. The average man would definitely miss them, even with scrutiny. Not even a Radiant Stage expert searching it with his soul could find them. Li Jingtian bore testament to that, yet this little monster actually did it. Not only found them, but even accurately struck their exact spot. Even Joie Fan had to admire his prowess. This ain't the time to gawk. Wiping his brow, Joie Fan squinted in fate. What are you saying? I can't see anything. Gu Santong pointed his childlike finger. See these dots? They don't match the ingredient. They are in fact closely resembling the worm in the last ingredient. They must be its eggs. Joie Fan's heart sank, and his legs almost gave. He looks like a clueless brat, but his eyesight is spot on. He can even see similarities between the eggs and the bloodworm. Joie Fan was gripped with fear. If the kid blames me for the worm and the eggs, a single hit from him will reduce me to pulp. But that didn't happen as Gu Santong waved the eggs off the ingredient and started chewing it. He chewed as he smiled. I can't blame you for this, just like the ingredient with the worm in it. How can I throw away a 7th grade ingredient? I don't mind taking it, haha. Gu Santong laughed brightly, and Joie Fan felt his heart bleed. Not only I lost a fortune, but I couldn't get the kid either. I lost everything. But as he was mourning the loss, Gu Santong's words drifted over. Hey, you're really good at finding ingredients. So why don't I shorten the time? 1 ingredient every 2 hours, a 7th grade one. Stumbling, Joie Fan was close to spurting blood. He had no one to blame but himself. Giving the kid so many ingredients ended up with him admitting defeat. And instead of getting him wrapped around Zhou Fan's fingers, the kid asked a 7th grade ingredient per 2 hours. He's killing me. Not even he had so many on hand. Chapter 234, Godlike Nose. Chapter 234, Godlike Nose. In a place filled with rubble, Zhou Fan and Li Jingtian sat glumly on a big stone. For were howling in the background, completing the picture with the odd twist and turn as pain stabbed through them. Zhou Fan sighed at the sky and stood. I need to go give the imp another ingredient. If this keeps up, I'll lose everything. Steward Zhou, can't we just flee? Why must we suffer at his hands? Li Jingtian frowned. Zhou Fan shook his head. Flee? I am not giving up. I already lost 6 7th grade ingredients, but still can't find that brat's weakness. If I leave now, all of that will go to waste. Humph! I've never once suffered so much in a deal. Li Jingtian understood him. Now it's time to go all out against this invincible scamp, Gu Santong. Zhou Fan refused to believe he couldn't subdue him, not after wasting so many ingredients on the prick, so Li Jingtian only shook his head, unable to figure out what Gu Santong's trick is to leave even the cunning Zhou Fan out of options. But just then, creepy laughter resounded. Zhou Fan looked back in reflex to see the 4 demons wrecked with pain, yet slipping a sneer among the tortured faces. It was an odd sound for sure. The combination of groans and jeers coming out of those twisted faces didn't seem natural. You couldn't tell if it was crying or laughing, but their eyes spoke enough for Zhou Fan to pick on their naked mockery. What are you laughing at? Zhou Fan snapped. You know, don't you? The creepy laughter grounded to a halt, and the 4 turned around and wailed in pain once again. Zhou Fan tightened his fists. This was silent protest. Zhou Fan could bet his ingredients that the 4 knew something. Speak, and your mistakes shall be crossed out, or I can promise you will go through such pain you can't even begin to imagine. Zhou Fan squinted and spoke with bloodthirst. Wimp Demon shuddered, but Violent Demon's glare stopped him from saying anything. Damn 4th bro. Did you forget how he played us? If you say one word, I will Violent Demon couldn't finish as Zhou Fan's hand sign ramped up the pain. He could only flop around from agony. The other demons were startled, and Wimp Demon was downright shaking. Steward Gu Santong's nose is very sharp. It doesn't matter what you do to the ingredient, he'll always find out. Nose. His eyes widening, Zhou Fan turned to Li Jingtian. Then his sign changed and Wimp Demon's pain up and vanished. Wimp Demon moved around in joy. Zhou Fan spoke. Wimp Demon, tell me all you know. Wimp Demon held Zhou Fan in fear and nodded. Gu Santong isn't only outrageously powerful, his nose is more so, godlike even. The last time we gave him an ingredient, we laced it with poison, but he sniffed it out instantly and beat us to a pulp. Then we thought of fleeing, but he could easily sniff us out in 1,000 miles, giving us another beating. Then, there's no then. We search seriously knowing we can't escape his evil clutches and look for ingredients for him. Zhou Fan's eyes twitched, but he believed him. He was amazing enough to sniff out the poison out of an ingredient. But to track them down in 1,000-mile radius, that was godlike. Even Radiant Stage's discerning field paled in comparison. Now the pair knew why Gu Santong let them go about searching for ingredients without minding them. No matter where they went, he'd find them. He can smell the bloodworm and its eggs. Is that it? Zhou Fan was incredulous. Such an insanely sharp nose. Is he perhaps looking down on discerning field? Li Jingtian's face was grave as well. Steward Zhou, does that mean escaping is impossible? I urge you not to flee, or you'll only suffer instead. Wimp Demon warned. Zhou Fan took a deep breath and nodded. Gu Santong was even more amazing than he thought. Now, not only striking back at him was impossible, even fleeing without Zhou Fan was glum, but he showed a smile to Wimp Demon, patting him. Wimp Demon, you're a nice guy. Far better than those idiots. You've been tousled by the bloodworm enough. Go take a rest. What? Wimp Demon hooped in joy while the other 3 demons cried in dissent. No way. Didn't you say demonic cultivators don't stick to their word? Grinning, Fan mocked. It's no promise, but a reward. Then he ignored the three. The only thing on their mind was regret. How could I be so stupid to miss this chance? Wimp Demon puffed his chest, strutting among the three demons, crying out in agony. The three demons glared at him with envy and hatred. Li Jingtian was speechless and held Fan's methods in even more admiration. These four little shits were immune to soft and hard methods. Even their thinking was screwed up. The only way to get them in line was with the carrot and the stick. Li Jingtian sighed. Steward Zhua, these four little shits had dragged us into a swamp that's hard to get out of, but I don't think it's such a miserable encounter. At least we now know Gu Santong's ace. Fan grinned, his eyes flashing as he watched the peak Gu Santong stayed on. In this world, what we fear the most is the unknown. Now that we know what his trick is, we just gotta think hard of how to counter it. No one is invincible, even monsters. Li Jingtian's heart shuddered and looked at Fan with hope. That's how a true man of ambition is. He can remain calm, even in the face of Tianyu's strongest. A pity such a talent is not a clan head. Rumble. With a sudden loud noise, the sky dimmed. Fan's side. It's about to rain. I'll hand the ingredient over to the kid, then think of a way to deal with his skill. I must have him under me. If Steward said it, then it's as good as done. Li Jingtian caressed his beard. He now had blind faith in Fan shook his head and set off. From the peak came Gu Santong's angry voice. Damn heaven, what lightning! Tone down the noise. Fan was startled, then frowned in thought. He heard a howl as a visible sound wave came from the peak and shot at the sky. In a blink, the thunderclouds scattered and the sky brightened. There was no cloud seen for thousands of miles. Li Jingtian was shocked. Gu Santong is amazing. With a mere shout, he unleashed an even stronger ripple than I do with Necro Dragon Screech. Fan scowled, his eyes spacing out in thought. The kid had always been calm around us, not showing even a bit of anger. I guess we weren't worthy to make him angry. Li Jingtian grinned, but why was he raging at the thunderclouds? Li Jingtian shook his head. Maybe he hates lightning. Or is it fear? Fan squinted. Li Jingtian shuddered. Steward Zhua, you mean? Perhaps his weakness is lightning. Fan made a hand sign, and the demon's torture stopped. Letting them catch their breath, Fan said, Get ready. We're going to Thunderswarm Mountain. But we're still in the kid's palm. Whatever for are we going to that damnable place? Violent Demon shouted. Fan glared, and his finger moved. My word is law. So cut the crap. Or else. Fine. We'll listen to Steward Zhua. We won't complain again. Violent Demon lifted his hands in defeat. Fan nodded. He flew to Gu Santong and was soon back again. Let's go. What if Gu Santong comes after us? Violent Demon hesitated. I told the kid we'll be going a bit further for his ingredients, and that there's an 8th grade ingredient there, but we'll be needing 3 days. He instantly agreed. By the time he figures out he'd been had, our trap will be ready. Fan snickered evilly. 4 scheming demons asked in unison. Trap? We will lure Tianyu's strongest, invincible scamp Gu Santong into a trap. Fan grinned, his eyes burning with resolve. Chapter 235. The Thunder Array Trap. Chapter 235. The Thunder Array Trap. Rumble. On top of a tall mountain, from south to north, from west to east, 4 cliffs stood. These cliffs were eternally shrouded by dark clouds with rumbling thunders striking them at any given moment. But the way these bucket-sized lightning bolts slammed into the 4 cliffs was akin to lightning dragons. They struck them and then returned back to the clouds to begin the cycle anew. From afar, it looked like a nest of lightning dragons roaming around the cliffs. Is this Thunder Swarm Mountain? Fan asked as he watched the spectacle. The 4 scheming demons nodded with a pained face, having vividly recalled the torment they had to endure inside. Violent Demon found it difficult to even speak. We've been stuck in there for 60-odd years, having lightning pass through us every second of every day. If it weren't for that dumbass leaving a hole behind, we might still be in there. Those are the worst years ever, Wah. Violent Demon cried as he pointed at the cliffs. The other demons were also tearing up. Li Jingtian's face twitched. He used to feel sad and bitter as well. But when the four described it, he felt disgusted instead. Didn't someone just save you? Why aren't you seeing him in a good light? Do such people even exist that would even call their rescuer a dumbass? Zhua Fan stood unflinching in the face of those crocodile tears. His eyes ever shined as he gazed at the cliffs. He isn't a dumbass at all. In fact, he didn't poke a hole in the barrier out of carelessness. He let them go on purpose? Li Jingtian cried. Zhua Fan nodded. This barrier may be fitting this place, raised on top of this natural array, but it is very intricately and painstakingly placed to leave almost no loopholes. That cliff, for example, is one such hole. Only an erudite could see it. What on purpose? Then how come we didn't see anyone when we got out? The four stopped crying on the spot and looked at each other baffled. They looked inwardly for an answer, but there didn't seem to be anyone on friendly terms with them besides those in the sect. Who could be so kind as to let them out? Scratching his nose, Zhua Fan smiled. He must have done it for his own reasons. But he never would have imagined he helped me instead. Ha ha ha! Don't dwell on it. What's crucial is that we set up an array and bait Gu Santong inside. This 6th-grade array is slightly damaged. Once I fix it, its power will double. Zhua Fan pointed at the cliff. Li Jingtian nodded and frowned. Steward Zhua, are you sure the kid will enter? What if he sees the array and waits for us outside instead? We won't be able to hold on then. No worries. Others will hesitate while he will jump straight in. Because he is the invincible scamp, undefeated throughout his life. He never suffered defeat, which makes him cocky. And cockiness leads to neglect. I believe there's not a best Radiant Stage sucker out there as this Gu Santong. Zhua Fan cackled with confidence. Li Jingtian gave a thumbs up. Steward Zhua sees through everyone. My admiration for you knows no bounds. Enough sucking up to me. I am certain he'll go in, but I can't gauge his power, making success uncertain. But with this natural 6th-grade array, and with us controlling it, success will be ours. Otherwise, Zhua Fan frowned and sighed, for scheming demons jumped over and shouted, What do you need us to do? Your job is to go in the array and distract Gu Santong. No way. We have had enough of this array. Even the demon scheming sect, everyone was against us controlling arrays. That's blatant discrimination. The 4 demons demanded fairness. Zhua Fan's face darkened. You damn idiots. Of course no one will let you. They were afraid you'd go messing it all up, and you'll go farther than mere discrimination against them. His face was solemn. I'm also discriminating against you. But don't you dare friggin' meddle with the array as I work on it. And you'd better listen to every one of my orders when Gu Santong gets inside and give your all while doing it. Or else. Zhua Fan's finger moved, sending the 4 demons shivering and bobbing their heads. Then they instantly switched to an aggrieved expression and kicked the stones at their feet in dissent. Why is everyone hell-bent against us? We are 4 demonic heroes. What's not to like? Li Jingtian laughed wryly at the 4's lonely figures. Zhua Fan didn't know if he should laugh or cry at these buffoons' antics. 3 days came and went, soon revealing Gu Santong landing at the foot of Thunderswarm Mountain. But the mountain was different than before. Its black clouds gone, it was a particularly sunny afternoon, with birds singing on this barren Thunderswarm Mountain. Only the occasional flickers on the rocks bore testament. This place was once flooded with lightning, but Gu Santong saw none of that. He only sniffed and shouted, You bastards have taken advantage of my trust and good nature. Get the hell out right now. I don't have much time to waste here. If you don't go out to get me ingredients, I'll be bitter all my life. Who knows when I'll get to eat so many good ingredients. Listen up. I know you're on that mountain. Get out right now. I am pressed for time, so I will forego your transgression. Don't make me come after you, or you'll be sorry. Gu Santong's childish voice reverberated for miles, but no reply came from the mountain. Gu Santong was pissed. Fine, have it your way. It's on you. See how I'll put you in your place once I get my hands on you. With a loud sound, Gu Santong charged straight into the Thunderswarm Mountain center. But just as he arrived in between the 4 cliffs and wiggled his nose in search of their location, a fierce gale blew. Black clouds started rolling in swiftly, submerging the cliffs in darkness. Then, peals of lightning flashed within the dark clouds, surrounding Gu Santong in the middle. Gu Santong's eyes widened and cried. An array. Zhua Fan and Li Jingtian hid in the tallest and shortest cliff's caves, controlling the array. They snorted at Gu Santong's shock again and again. Hey, invincible scamp, your day has come. Rumble. A thunderous sound came from above, and a lightning dragon spiraled around the four cliffs, setting up the barrier to seal, and even a radiant stage expert, Gu Santong, shuddered and frowned. He covered his ears and cursed. You bastards, is it not enough you set up an array, but did it have to be a thunder one? Zhua Fan and Li Jingtian cracked up. Ha ha, only thunder can keep you little freak in check. Who is scared of it? Elderly, this is just the start. But be careful. The lightning may have a heavy impact on him, but I don't want to kill him. I want him alive. Zhua Fan transmitted words to Li Jingtian. Li Jingtian nodded and laughed. I got it, Steward Zhua. We can't have those ingredients go to waste. I know what to do. The two changed hand signs as they laughed. Rumble. With another loud sound, hundreds of lightning fell from the sky straight for Gu Santong. Boom. With a cacophony of explosions, Gu Santong's frail figure slammed to the ground. Kicking up dust, Zhua Fan stopped, worried for his safety as he shouted, Wait, why isn't he resisting? You're telling me lightning is fatal for him? That's bad. I don't want him dead. Steward Zhua, should I go take a look? Li Jingtian suggested. Zhua Fan hesitated. When the dust cleared, the two saw something incredulous. A huge hole in which Gu Santong was slammed, but the child in question was unscathed, covering his ears and raining curses. His face was filled with loathing, but otherwise, not a scratch on him, no way. Lightning should be his weakness. Zhua Fan was incredulous and shouted, Abominable, four scheming demons. Keep him busy and show me how he handles the lightning. Elder Li, raise the power. Understood, the four shouted, and the demons gave a creepy snicker as they shot for Gu Santong in a series of afterimages. Li Jingtian and Zhua Fan were shifting through the hand signs. Hi, hi, hi. Hearing their jeer, Gu Santong sniffed and looked at the afterimages with loathing. I knew you were messing around here. I could smell you a mile away. Shut down the array. I hate lightning the most. Lightning is the little monster's bane. We won't stop it, so what are you going to do about it? Violent Demon laughed, his afterimage shifting to Gu Santong to land a punch, but Gu Santong still held his ears and stood unmoving, despite his mouth spitting out endless curses. Then Violent Demon's face sank as he held his hand and cussed. God damn it. The kid's hard as a rock. My hand almost got ruined. Rumble. Just then, thousands of lightning struck Gu Santong. Chapter 236, Invincible Fist. Chapter 236, Invincible Fist. Boom. Lightning struck Gu Santong constantly, smashing him into another hole. Even a peak radiant stage expert would have a hard time facing such a hit. Yet, Zhua Fan was still unclear if all of this was enough for the likes of Gu Santong. He was invincible scamp, the strongest in Tianyu. His eyes fixed on the settling dust, Zhua Fan's heartbeat quickened. When the dust cleared, his eyes widened and gasped. Gu Santong was still covering his ears and standing there, unharmed. But his face took a darker shade. Out of anger for scheming demons, how did he take on lightning? You should have seen it clearly from your angle. Zhua Fan roared through the transmission. Four scheming demons turned into gray afterimages around Gu Santong as they reported in fear. As Steward Zhua, this kid didn't stop one lightning. Each bolt was a direct hit, but he is still standing there like nothing happened. What? For scheming demons report froze Zhua Fan. You mean to tell me lightning doesn't do a damn thing to this kid? Was my assumption wrong? Steward Zhua, what now? He is just standing here in the array, but we can't do anything to him. Something bad is bound to happen if this goes on. And once he gets out, he'll want to settle the score. We'll be finished. Squinting, Zhua Fan said, Elderly, the lightning isn't his weakness, but he always shouts profanities at it. I was wrong. He just hates lightning. But this sixth grade array is built on a natural formation. Let's use all we have on him. No matter how ridiculously powerful he is, it'll be worth it if we can wear him out even a little. All right. Li Jingtian agreed. Zhua Fan sighed despite saying that. He had a feeling they'd fail from the moment he set up the array. As this was all based on the premise his guess was right, that Gu Santong was weak to lightning. He was now holding the fates of everyone in his hands. He knew there was only a 50% chance of success. But he wanted to get Gu Santong so badly that he was willing to gamble on that measly 50%, using even the lives of others. But even in this case, he had a fail-safe, just escaping was also 50-50. If Gu Santong bore through it as well, they were dead. This was indeed a very risky move from his part, totally opposite for his usual style. Steward Zhua, I'm ready. How are you? Li Jingtian sent over Zhua Fan's side, and his hands moved, I as well. Begin. The two signs synced. Thunder rolled and lightning flickered. From the deep and rumbling dark clouds, tens of thousands of lightning bolts barreled down. That immense power caused even Thunder Swarm Mountain to shake. It meant that even the sixth great array was having a hard time withstanding such might. The four scheming demons were slack-jawed, crying out in fear as they retreated. They no longer dared staying close to Gu Santong. The lightning this time may very well smash them to bits. Gu Santong, with his ears covered, looked at the thunder with pure loathing and anger. Gu Santong, if you still stand after this, then you must be my karma coming back to bite me. Taking a deep breath, Zhua Fan gnashed his teeth, and his hand sign changed boom. Hundreds of thousands of lightning bolts rained down. They twisted around each other and formed a lightning dragon that coiled around each cliff as it roared. Such destructive power seemed to wish for the annihilation of the whole world. Zhua Fan was certain that the lightning dragon would turn this Thunder Swarm Mountain and everything in 100 miles barren. Only the array controllers would survive. He never hoped it would come to this. But he was the demonic emperor, rising on top of a mountain of bones. If he wanted invincible Scam's power, mercy for some miscellaneous creatures had no place here. Roar. The entire sky was roaring as it came crashing down. Gu Santong felt the sheer brutality aiming at him, forced to squint at the eye-piercing light. His ears rang from the sudden explosions, and only now, finally, his hands released them, forming a small fist. Then, a punch soared straight for the lightning dragon's head. Releasing an odd ripple, Gu Santong didn't even put the lightning dragon in his eyes. His face was calm, yet the ripple he released flew like a meteor, pushing back at the lightning dragon. Every place the ripple touched, lightning crumbled. People would be shocked to see how it began with the lightning dragon's head, turning it into specks of light. The ripple then shot past the lightning dragon and exploded way up high. The rumbling and black thunderclouds were sporting a mile-wide hole in their center, allowing for the sun's warm glow to pass through. Groaning, Zhua Fan and Li Jingtian spat blood. Thoroughly stupefied, Gu Santong struck the picture of a god of war, in the middle of the sun shining down on him from the wide hole in the sky. The two of them were lost for words. Invincible Scamp is crazy strong. No wonder he could face the entire empire and still win. Zhua Fan sighed. It's my loss this time. Elderly, patch up the thunderclouds. It's time to bolt. Invincible Scamp is out of my league. Or maybe we'll just get him on a better occasion. This was the first time Li Jingtian saw Zhua give up. But the image of Gu Santong easily withstanding a sixth grade array left him shuddering. Only an extraordinary man could control such a freak. Zhua Fan and Huangpu Qingtian are also freaks, but they have a long way to go to be monsters. Li Jingtian smiled dejectedly and copied Zhua Fan's sign in patching the hole in the sky. They then sent the order for retreat to the four demons. They no longer used the array to seize Invincible Scamp, but to buy time. They would never get out of this alive otherwise. This may very well be the first time he and Zhua Fan felt so utterly powerless, especially Zhua Fan, with his cunning mind and foolproof plans. They all were rendered powerless in the face of that kid. Absolute power indeed trumped over any ploy. But seeing the looming black clouds gathering, Gu Santong roared, "You six bastards! I told you already that I hate lightning. Yet, you dare continue?" With a snort, Gu Santong stomped. With 2 steps, thunder swore mountains, 4 cliffs shook ceaselessly. Zhua Fan and Li Jingtian wobbled, shaken to their core, but the next thing had them swept by panic. Gu Santong tightened his fists at the side, as if focusing his power. Then he struck. Hum! Another ripple spread everywhere, making everything it touched quake. With Gu Santong at the center, all around him crumbled to dust. The ripple looked slow when in fact had incredible speed, leaving nothing but dust in its wake. Zhua Fan cried out, "The kid's power is insane. He can shake space itself with a punch alone. Run, the 6th Great Array can't do anything to him. We can't deal with him. Go underground, there's no escaping it." Li Jingtian paled from shock. He knew Gu Santong was godlike, but now it was no longer an exaggerating description. The kid shook off the 6th Great Array as if it was a breeze, an array that held radiant stage experts for tens of years prisoners. How is he even human? They didn't get to make 2 steps as the ripple passed by them and into the horizon. Boom! Anything in 100 miles was pulverized. Once the dust settled, the sight was overwhelming and impossible to fathom as far as the eye could see, in any given direction, down to the last blade of grass. All was just gone. Gu Santong leveled a 100-mile-wide circle in a blink as to Thunder Swarm Mountain and the black clouds. It looked as if they never even existed in the first place. Zhua Fan and Li Jingtian crawled from underground, shivering at this sight. The 4 demons came out as well and stood agape. Scared to the core, Wimp Demon was holding his head as it shook like a leaf. He wanted to bury his head, anything, so long as it rid that little monster's image out of his head. Gu Santong was an abomination. If not for Steward Zhua's timely advice, they'd be nothing but dust by now. Violent Demon lamented inside. Invincible Scamp is a real freak. We can't mess with him ever again, no matter how Steward Zhua tortures us. We must never agree to such a reckless plan ever again. The 4 vowed to themselves. Though clueless they all were to the fact, Gu Santong was standing right behind them with a cold face. Bloodthirst flashed in his eyes as he looked at their dusty backs. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.